Does this mean you are now seeing eye to eye?
Tito, what kind of a question is that? Si wanaonana macho kwa macho.
Class, I want to say that Mr. Fridge and I, we have decided to put our differences aside.
You want to be what?
Campaign manager.
You messed me in my dream. You want to mess me again? Stupid.
Kinyanju niko very fresh. Wacha nikwambie Kinyanju. Unajua umoja ni nguvu, utengana ni utaifa. Mimi hasa niendelea kutengana. Wewe hebu jipe shughuli, niko very busy. I am very busy. Wewe wasiana kunisumbua ate business partner na makopa yangu.
So guys, let me tell you.
Classmate.
Éramos los que éramos ayer y los que seremos.
Gonzalo, wouldn't it be better to end the whole thing once and for all?
No.
I don't know how he got to the hospital.
So, you don't know how he found out?
No, I don't know. Nothing. One of the partners of my father was from there. That's him. Yes, that's him. Edgar Almonte Esquero. I'm very sure.
Julieta.
Yes.
Julieta.
Mr. Adrian, there's someone to see you.
See me? Who?
Yes. It's me.
I don't like to keep on having debts.
You still have a debt with me. You said that you owe me one, right?
Top of the morning and welcome to the program. This is Good Morning Kenya, coming to you live from the broadcasting house here in Nairobi. I am Jane Wamboy. We are glad you are with us on this 5th day of May 2022. We trust your month has been off to a beautiful start. I mean, it started with a glorious long weekend. Nonetheless, the week is coming to an end and we appreciate that you are with us right here on Thursday. As we always say, Thursday is the new Friday. Na kama kawaida, kama dawa, kama kawa, tuko sawa, crew iko tayari. On the other end, tuko na Monday representing Ray today. Troy. Yes. Watagwan.
There
we are. Utaangusha. When I'm true. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It feels nice to be here because I'm sitting in for Regina.
Yes.
And this week was quite fantastic. We worked for 3 days. Wiki zote zinafaa kwa hivyo bana. Anyway, I'm good.
Glad to have you with us today, Doreen.
Thank you.
The lady in red.
Wiki zote zinafaa nasi Valentine's.
Nasi Valentine's.
Haya.
Na vile.
Ati Troy anasema all the weeks need to be like that. But then do you know actually sort of, is it like a survey, should I say, was done on Kenyans they say thoughts or what they felt about these long holidays, and I can tell you for those in self-employment really complained about this holiday. Wale wenye wako public service walikuwa na feel like kidogo
No business.
But we are still here to keep you abreast with what is happening in Kenya and beyond. And just as Wamboy has mentioned, it is Thursday, so obviously the new Friday. And you know, Thursday we talk about matters entertainment all the way. We have so much in store for you this morning, from music, conversations to arts and so much more. So stick with us up until the end of the show. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okello.
Fantastic. And as always, you can be part of this live broadcasting. Talk to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Feel free to let us know where you're watching us from. So check in. Official station handle is at KBC across all the social media platforms. But for now, over to you, Troy.
Indeed, and we will be back with the day's news. We have plenty, so stick with us. Good morning. The Judicial Service Commission, JSC, has recommended the suspension of Justice Said Juma Chitembwe of the High Court over allegations of impropriety and gross misconduct. The JSC has petitioned President Uhuru Kenyatta to form a tribunal to probe Chitembwe's conduct. Justice Chitembwe had denied corruption allegations following the surfacing of a video in which he allegedly discussed the particulars of a matter pending in court. 2 petitions have also been filed seeking his removal. Chief Justice Martha Koome, who is also the Judicial Service Commission chairperson, has petitioned President Uhuru Kenyatta to set up a commission to investigate graft and abuse of office allegations against High Court Judge Justice Said Juma Chitembwe. In a press statement, Koome said that the commission had initiated proceedings for the removal of the judge from office pursuant to provisions of Article 168(2) of the Constitution. She noted that the commission had on 27th April this year considered the report of the panel set up to probe Chitembwe and was contented that there was sufficient grounds to instigate his removal. A section of lawyers through the Nairobi LSK branch had also called for Chitembwe's removal, citing abuse of office. 2 other individuals had filed petitions seeking his removal from office over bribery and abuse of office allegations, claiming that the judge had tried to bribe them to withdraw the case. The president shall within 14 days suspend the judge from office and form a tribunal to probe Chitembwe's conduct. The judge will receive half of his pay until conclusion of the probe. And meanwhile, the Judicial Service Commission has announced the shortlisted candidates for the recruitment of judges of the Court of Appeal and the High Court Judge. The commission has shortlisted 31 candidates out of 68 applicants for 6 positions of judges of the Court of Appeal. The commission has also picked 104 candidates from 266 applicants to fill 20 positions advertised for the position of High Court judges. Among the candidates shortlisted for interviews set to begin next month are former Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC chairperson Hassan Ahmed Isaac, who wants to be judge of the Court of Appeal. In politics now, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party will allow candidates from constituent parties to campaign for their respective elective positions for 1 month, after which a poll will be conducted to identify the most popular candidates to fly the Azimio flag. Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga said internal competition within the party should be seen to be healthy. Raila spoke when he met Azimio grassroots leaders from Nyeri County, whom he asked to be his foot soldiers and cement his support in the vote-rich region.
After a meeting with leaders from Laikipia, Kiambu and Murang'a, the ODM leader convened a consultative meeting Wednesday with grassroots leaders from Nyeri County as he seeks to consolidate his support in the region that has traditionally voted against him.
Azimio! Azimio!
Raila told the leaders that the aim is to ensure internal competition does not reduce Azimio's numerical strength in the elective positions. Raila maintained that constituent parties will compete internally for a month, after which the coalition will conduct a poll with the most popular candidate expected to fly the Azimio flag.
Areas where, for example, you have maybe NAK Kenya, you have Wiper candidate, you have ODM candidate, like we had here Kiambu team there yesterday. We've agreed that they will go for a campaign the first 1 month. After that, we'll do a poll and see which of the candidates is stronger than the others. Then we see the one who is weaker, we advise to step down so that we don't share the votes and then lose to our opponent.
Raila Odinga recounting his relationship with the late President Mwai Kibaki, with leaders from the county promising to reciprocate his Kibaki Tosha moment.
Tunaenda kwa kiwanja. Uwanja imefurika. Na wananchi wanataka kujua. Kila mmoja, mimi ndiye nimekuwa master ceremony ya mwisho. Nimeita Kibaki ya mwisho, na mimi ndiye kaongea ya mwisho. nikaona sasa hii maneno tupeleke kwa wananchi. Ndio sasa mimi nikasema Kibaki,
it is fair in morality and it is fair in all manner that you call, it is fair in godliness. Mtu akisema ni wewe leo, yani kwa nini usiseme ni yeye kesho?
We've been looking and seeing the information. We are on the right track. We are on the right path. We are following our leader. He's very clear on where we are going and what our future looks like. So I have no hesitation in supporting His Excellency Raila Odinga and the candidature.
On Thursday, Raila is expected to hold a similar meeting with Nyandarua and Nakuru leaders.
Sasa nyinyi ni wanajeshi wangu huko mashinani. Sina wa candidate ya ODM huko. Sasa nyinyi ndio nyinyi mko Jubilee na mko Azimio.
Hello.
In the meantime, Dr. Noah Wekesa will chair the committee of the eminent persons that will interview possible running mate nominees for Raila Odinga. The committee has resolved to interview candidates who have expressed interest as long as they belong to a constituent party under the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition.
Any constituent party members of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya alliance that wishes to nominate any person for consideration as a candidate for the position of Deputy President of the coalition to submit the name of such a person.
And still on politics, Deputy President Dr. William Ruto has defended himself from claims he has abandoned his constitutional responsibility as the principal assistant to the president. Ruto is instead blaming the handshake, saying it derailed the aspirations and dreams of Jubilee government. Ruto, who led the Kenya Kwanza team in a series of meetings in Kisii and Nyamira counties, said all is not lost.
After 1 week off the campaign trail as the nation mourned the late former President Mwai Kibaki, the Kenya Kwanza coalition was on Wednesday back to business. Led by the coalition's presidential flag bearer, Dr. William Ruto, the coalition held an economic engagement forum in Kisii, where the principals promised to relook the current tax models in an effort to protect small businesses.
Kule Senate tulipitisha sheria, Bwana Maangi, ya kwamba we want one single trade permit per trader per year. Kwa hivyo mambo ya kulipisha ushuru kila siku ni kuwaibia wananchi. Na hiyo lazima serikali yetu ya awamu ya 5 itabadilisha.
Tukipunguza gharama ya credit ama mkopo na tutengeneze mahali mnafanya biashara hiyo, mahali safi na mahali sawa, hiyo mapato ya shilingi 100 ama 200 kwa siku itakuwa shilingi 600 ama 700 kwa siku. We can double or triple the income of micro and small enterprises just by reducing their credit and making sure they have access to affordable credit and they have a good place to do their business.
The principal said should they form the next government, they will lower the prices of farm inputs in part of the efforts to spur improved agricultural production.
Mimi nataka niwatangazie hivi. Wale wote mlio katika sekta mbalimbali ya biashara, kama nyinyi ni watu wa mtumba, kama nyinyi ni watu wa mboga, kama nyinyi ni watu wa bodaboda, kama nyinyi ni watu wa wakulima wa sehemu fulani, tengenezeni sako zenu. Tunasema kama serikali ya Kenya, mwaka huu baada ya uchaguzi, vile tunaweka pesa ya CDF 140 million per constituency, mwaka huu tunaweka 200 million shillings per constituency ya biashara ya watu wa chini, ya SMEs.
Ruto using the opportunity to respond to claims that he absconded his constitutional duty as the principal assistant to the head of state.
My good friend, the president himself, has said that the people who have been working with him, the people who are assigned my responsibilities, the people who advise the president for the last 5 years, the president himself has told us they have failed him. because all the programs we had set out in our Big Four plan did not take off. And I want to say that those of you who are entrusted with the responsibilities by His Excellency the President, you have let him down, you have wasted his second term, you have wasted the time of the people of Kenya.
Sisi tunasema tunataka uchumi badilike, and we cannot afford to gamble anymore.
After the forum in Kisii, DP Ruto led the Kenya Kwanza coalition in rallies in Nyamira County, urging locals to back his economic transformative agenda. The coalition will continue with the Meet the People tour of the two counties on Thursday.
From politics to education matters, where thousands of learners reported to Form 1 Wednesday amid an outcry by parents over the high prices of commodities and excessive demands by schools. Parents are now calling on the government to come up with measures to cushion them against the harsh economic times.
At St. George's Girls High School in Nairobi, it's a beehive of activities as the school welcomes its next cohort of Form 1 students. One after the other, learners accompanied by the caregivers are taken through the various stations to confirm whether they have all the requirements as they begin this new chapter of their academic life. Most parents, however, are struggling to ensure their children are in school due to the financial constraints.
Tumekuwa na challenge sana upande ya school fees, na kuambia hata kama wamesema serikali wameongeza, serikali wametulipia school fees kidogo, nayo na school fund nyingine baadaye wapunguze nayo wakaodo wakaongea, so inakuja kama ni 0-0.
And the most challenging part is the uniform and the shoppings. They are extreme, and because you have no choice, you have to.
This even as they share mixed feelings about the outcome of the Form 1 selection process.
Nimesema nataka kufanya hii apewe hiyo kulingana na ile score ambaye amepata, lakini unakuta saa zingine mtoto ameapply huku ametupwa kwingine mbali na nyumbani. Unakuta climate inamuaffect kwa sababu kama mahali pa joto umeletwa mahali pa baridi, mahali pa baridi umetupwa mahali pa joto, so inakuwa na changamoto sana.
He was schooled in another school in Meru, which is a bit far. And then she was done eye surgery and is supposed to be going weekly for the next 1 year. So I decided to look for a school near whereby I can be picking and taking her for the checkups.
The principal of Jamhuri High School, Fred Owar, explains why some students may have missed slots in their preferred schools.
Even here, there are those who may want to come here, but we cannot be able to have them. Because we have 8 streams, we're expecting 384 boys. Not all of them can come, and we have very many applicants. So it is always a question that if we cannot be able to have that space, then maybe we ask the parents to go and look for another place that has a vacancy.
He exudes confidence that the school plans utilize the short academic calendar.
Basically, we can talk about 6 to 7 months of contact time with the teachers, because in December they do the exams. So it means that we have to go overdrive a little to be able to cover the syllabus and do the necessary revision as well.
At the Ocean Girls High School in Baringo County, Elsie Njeri is among thousands of learners who are excited to join secondary schools.
About this school, but I got to know more about this school and I was excited to be here, and as I've seen, it's a very good school. So far everything is okay, we thank God. Everything is in process. Everyone is coming and we are being welcomed in a very warm way.
The admission exercise was smooth at Mamangina Girls High School in Mombasa, with the school experiencing an influx of Form 1 students this year. And as Form 1 students join to their respective schools, a number of issues are of concern to parents, especially with the handle of costs that comes in handy. However, the heart of the matter remains that this is a stark reality that they can't escape, with this academic year being packed with August general election.
In other news, a section of leaders in northern Kenya has supported measures instituted by the government to ensure peace prevails in Marsabit and Komu sublocation of Isiolo County. They said the 1-month dusk to dawn curfew in Marsabit and the disarmament exercise in Komu will curtail criminal activities.
On Monday this week, the government declared a dusk to dawn curfew in Marsabit for 1 month and a mop-up of illegal firearms in Komu sublocation in Isiolo County. The move follows deterioration of security in those areas, with the latest incident being last Thursday in Marsabit, where 5 people were killed, among them a chief and his assistant. Leaders from the area have lauded the measures.
Our purpose of making this statement is to make sure that the objective of the operation is achieved. Until and unless our herders who are displaced forcefully by armed Kenyans, illegally armed Kenyans from neighboring counties, are contained and our people are able to go back and freely graze.
They further urged the government to act on recommendations made by leaders from the area in previous meetings to curb insecurity.
Therefore, we want to urge the Inspector General of Police, during this security operation, no attempt should be made to close down informal mining village.
Tafadhali, hii ni wakati ambayo tunaenda kwa mbinu ya siasa. Sisi hatutaki umagaji wa damu iendelee. Tunataka hii vita ikome. Tunataka watu waendelee na maisha yao.
They also recommended that a special police unit be set up at Yamiche in Isiolo County to deal with banditry.
ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru has urged Kenyans to be selfless in their daily activities so as to positively impact the lives of the people they serve. CS Musheru challenged citizens to always question their motives as to whether they are truly serving the nation or their own selfish interest. Speaking while he officially awarded a group of public and private servants, national honors conferred to them by President Uhuru Kenyatta on Jamhuri Day, Musheru urged Kenyans to emulate those identified for the great role they play in building the nation. Government spokesperson Colonel Cyrus Oguna was awarded the Elder of the Order of the Burning Spear, EBS, for his dedicated service to the nation. Other awardees included Maureen Mbaka, Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of ICT, Joshua Oscar, CEO of Continental Renewable Energy, among others.
Thank you so much. Thank you. The individuals have stood out. There's a long process in how people are selected in order for them to get these commendations and awards. And it really is probably one of the highest honors that you can get for public service. Public service as a civil servant or as a private citizen, but a service that Kenya is recognizing through the head of state and saying that you have contributed and we've recognized your contribution and the value that you're adding, and therefore you are someone that can be respected and called upon on many different aspects of the country and in terms of leadership. You can use the EGH, the MBS, all the different titles that you now have after your name. You just need to do your work diligently and sacrifice for the people. And you'll find many of these people, they did not come to me, but I think they found themselves where they are based on their work. They were recommended by different people. And it's recommendations. The time is opened and names are put forward. That's the way it works.
And moving on, journalists in Kilifi County want the government to offer them protection as they go about their work. The scribes claim threats from news sources coupled with poor pay have been a major challenge in their output.
Baya Kitsao Kenya Correspondents Association chairperson in Kilifi County urged the government and security entities to cooperate with journalists in ensuring that security is provided to them in the line of duty.
Katika mizozo ambayo imekuwa ikionekana, unakuta kwamba waandishi habari wanapigwa na maafisa wa polisi, wanaumizwa na maafisa wa polisi, na vile vile pia vifaa vyao pia kuweza kuharibiwa na maafisa wa polisi, ambapo hili ni swala ambalo serikali inapaswa kuangalia na kuleta utendakazi mzuri baina ya waandishi habari na vile vile pia na idara ya polisi.
The scribes challenged media owners to increase pay for correspondents who are also facing economic hardship. Elsewhere, Central Region Amani National Congress leaders have asked Kenya Kwanza Party leader Deputy President Dr. William Ruto not to be held hostage by a few leaders from the region. Led by the ANC Kirinyaga chairman Peter Ireri, the leaders asked the DP to nominate someone from another region to be his deputy ahead of the August general elections.
As ANC leaders, we wish to tell the Deputy President that he should not be held hostage by a few leaders from our region who want the position of the Deputy President. Our support for him is unconditional.
In Kitui County, close to 8,500 residents of Mumoli Ward in Mwingi North have received title deeds thanks to area governor Charity Ngilu.
Miaka mingi kutoka wakati nilizaliwa 62 kutoka kupika leo nimepata title deeds ile ambayo itanisaidia kwa kuchukua loan ama kuchukua naye karibu.
Sasa ile mnaenda kuchagua viongozi, muangalie viongozi ambao wanaelewa sana na shida zenu na vile wanaweza kutatua shida la mwananchi.
While in Kiambu, police have arrested 20 suspects in connection to the sale of narcotics in the area. Area Police Commander Paminas Muchagi said police managed to net over 4,000 rolls of ban among other illegals.
This operation is continuous, and we are going to continue with it until we make sure that Kiambu is completely clean out of these drugs. We are not going to entertain anybody or to allow anybody to bring bang within our areas.
Very well, it's 7 o'clock East African time. We are taking a short break, but we'll be right back with more news. But allow me to just appreciate one or two people watching. Beatrice Orondo, morning. My #1 channel tuned in from Kisumu. Solomon Namale, you say good morning. You are watching from Naivasha. Revered Donald, you say good morning. Victor Rotich, you say you are watching from Kericho. Chepsion Chesi Nede. Let's have that break. We'll be right back with more.
Kwa ufupi hawa ni watu wangu mimi.
Mzee, you can call it kahindi, kahi.
Ni watu wazima mkikosana, mwataka sisi tuige mfano wa nani?
Dadangu, huoni aibu? Aibu ungeiona wewe Kate ilokuzunguka, right, left and center.
Nilidhani haya mambo ya leo tushawachana nayo. Kwa hivyo sijakukasirisha. Unanisinya uwe.
At the time, Shannon was in my office too.
What do you mean? You suspect that Shannon stole it?
I'm your daughter. You raised me. Don't you know what kind of person I am?
Pauline, tell me who gave this ring to you.
My uncle gave it to me. He said it belonged to my mum. You hurt me, Pinky.
To kill.
Welcome back and thanks for keeping it KBC. Let's now make sense of shillings and cents in business, where the government has doubled fertilizer bags per farmer to 40. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya has ordered the National Cereals and Produce Board to start the distribution of the subsidized fertilizer early next week. Munya has also allayed fears of fertilizer shortage in the country, saying the government has procured enough fertilizer to last the planting season.
Early last month, the government released 5.7 billion shillings to subsidize prices of fertilizer after the price of the commodity jumped to record levels early this year. The fertilizer subsidy fund has lowered the cost of the chemical to 2,800 shillings for a 50 kg DAP fertilizer, 1,850 shillings for CAN, 2,700 shillings for urea, NPK for 3,000, and sulfate ammonia at 2,500 shillings. The government, however, capped the purchase of subsidized fertilizer at 20 bags per farmer, a move that has seen some farmers protest due to lack of the commodity. And today, small and large-scale farmers can now sign with relief after the government doubled the number of bags under the subsidy program to 40 bags from Monday next week.
From the current 20, I've now doubled them so that farmers can get more fertilizer and they need for their planting season and also the top dressing season.
Speaking at the launch of a coffee task force report, Munya has further assured farmers that the country has procured enough fertilizer to last the current planting season.
Kuwako sa transport ya kutoa fertilizer kwa sababu ya fuel kule Mombasa zimeisha. Sasa hakuna shinda yoyote ya kupata fertilizer ile ilikuwa huko North Rift. Fertilizer imeanza kufika, players wamekuwa wengi, choices wa wakulima zimekuwa nyingi.
The Agriculture Ministry established the Coffee Prices Stabilization Framework that seeks to address challenges in the coffee subsector in order to improve farmers' earnings, boost foreign exchange, improve food and nutrition security, and create employment.
Past 2 years, I'm aimed at taking back the sector to its rightful owner, the smallholder producer, so that he gets a fair share of his toil.
The CS blamed the challenges experienced in the coffee sector to mismanagement and corruption, with cartels in the sector undermining government efforts to revamp the coffee industry.
Elsewhere, the government has signed a 2-year memorandum of understanding to strengthen Kenya's creative industry and support the development of the next generation of storytellers. ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musharu says the deal will unlock training opportunities for screen sector development, create jobs, as well as facilitate digital consumer protection and local content investment.
Kenya has signed a memorandum of understanding with Netflix, which is the first of its kind for Netflix in Africa, that will focus on skills and capacity development, creative sector infrastructure development, marketing and media spend, digital consumer protection, and local content investment.
We want to make sure now with the Africa Free Trade Area, we should be number 3 or number 2 in the world. We compete with the others as we open the market. Because again, creating the single digital market is one of the ambitions our heads of state have had.
On-set training, this is an avenue that Netflix is going to provide us in a manner that Kenyan creatives will find an opportunity to actually practice their art by interacting with the best globally.
The deal is expected to strengthen the voice of those in Kenya's creative industry to tell their own story and build their capacity to better compete on the global stage.
We've worked with them also before, and we continue to discuss with them on issues of having town halls with them in order to sensitize their consumers on how to make the best use of their platform.
And I think Netflix is providing that platform, but not only that, giving opportunities to creatives. We are amazing storytellers in Kenya.
Meanwhile, the Communication Authority of Kenya is reviewing the Universal Service Fund strategy with the aim of expanding ICT infrastructure to ensure that ICT services are accessible in all parts of Kenya, including marginalized areas.
We hope our pledge will be accepted by ITU so that next month when we go to Kigali, we'll tell our story of how we intend to completely transform digitally this country in the next 5 years.
It is only by working together that we can be able to address the identified access gaps that still exist.
KALRO is spearheading implementation of a sustainable climate-adapted and digitally enabled agriculture, targeting 1 million farmers in 6 counties.
Now, the 3-year standoff between Kenya and Sudan over the shelf life of tea has been fully resolved, paving the way for increased shipment to the northeastern African country. Sudan had petitioned Kenya to reduce the shelf life of tea from 3 to 2 years, an issue that the Tea Board of Kenya says has been settled.
Tea export volumes to Sudan have not been optimum over the last 3 years after the northeastern African country raised concerns about the long shelf life of Kenyan tea. Sudan preferred that the shelf life of Kenyan tea exported there be reduced by a third to 2 years. A technical committee constituted by the two countries agreed to keep the shelf life of tea at 3 years, thereby settling the issue. This resolution that was reached after 3 years has lifted up export volumes by 41% to 2 million kilos for last year, according to the Tea Board of Kenya.
Instituted a technical committee between our tea researchers and also researchers in Sudan. They did experiments for the last 3 years, and they realized that there is no deterioration of value even at 3 years. So that standoff was resolved.
This has forced Kenya to focus on new markets in West Africa for orthodox tea.
We're focusing now on the issue of market. Where, after we've produced our very good teas, do we sell the tea?
But the markets are still there. We have a big market in Europe. We have a big market in America. And to some extent, China.
Plans are also underway to increase the acreage under specialty tea, with a target of growing production to at least 4 million kilos annually in the short term.
And in sports, Real Madrid staged a comeback to beat Manchester City 3-1 after extra time and 6-5 on aggregate at the Santiago Bernabeu, and set a Champions League final rematch against Liverpool. The final is slated for May 28th in Stade de France.
A few minutes of the regulation time, and then Rodrigo on as a substitute. Scored not once but twice. This is the second one, which means...
What a comeback. Congratulations to Real Madrid and Manchester City. You live to fight another day. That's where we put a cap on GMK News. In the headlines is coming up next.
All right, let's now move on to the papers. Just have a quick look at what the dailies have for us today. I have a copy of the Daily Nation. Not too many stories have been featured here, but we start off with the story here concerning a warning that has been sent out by World Health Organization concerning obesity apps. So millions of people are piling up the weight from food delivery, food that is delivered to them via apps, and this, according to experts, needs to be regulated due to the increased number of obesity cases that have been reported. I'll be giving you the details of this particular story because they have narrowed it down to Kenya, given us the figures that we need to understand as a country. Away from that, the main read today concerns Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka. Did he talk himself out of a job? That is the question. And as far as political options are concerned, it seems that Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka finds himself between a rock and a hard place, rather, and in his path that has been termed as a frustrated journey towards the hunt of being deputy president. He can't officially quit the coalition because of the agreement that they had signed, and on the other side, his chances of running as an individual for the presidency continues to grow thinner and thinner. And still some high-ranking officials from the Azimio part of the divide saying that the push by Deputy President William Ruto to have Kalonzo Musyoka named as Raila Odinga's running mate is suspicious. I'll be giving you those details in just a bit. And also concerning education, confusion and congestion as Form 1s report to schools. This is a process that officially started yesterday. So many parents went on to complain and just share their frustration, some on social media, concerning the challenges that they have been experiencing when it comes to taking the children to high school, considering out of the 1 million, let me get the actual figure, out of the 1,179,192 candidates who sat for the KCPE exams, only 7,927 did not get admission, and this particular group included inmates, overage candidates, and candidates from refugee camps. So almost all of them were placed in various schools, but according to also what principals are saying, facilities are overcrowded, the institutions are overcrowded, and the facilities are not enough to cater for these numbers. Some parents have said that the schools have told them to purchase some items that were not part of what they were initially supposed to purchase, but according to the parents that have been given some of these extra items on this list, these are requirements that the schools are giving them, and they are required to take their kids to school with these items or they will not be admitted. And of course, this boils down to the financial burden that is still being placed on parents to just make sure that the 100% transition is effective. Finally, tribunal to hear judge's graft case. This is in regards to the tribunal that was recommended by the JSC in regards to looking into the case involving Chitembwe and just looking at the charges that have been leveled against him, which include gross misconduct and misbehavior that go back to the video that was actually leaked sometime in November last year by former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko that depicted the judge to be sort of scheming to interfere with an active court case. These details coming up in just a bit. Mike.
Yes, very good morning to you. And on the Star, the top headline is Raila's new Mount Kenya game plan. So he's aggressively touring Ruto's perceived stronghold. And it continues on page 4 and 5. So the ODM leader will personally take charge of his campaigns. Raila's think tank, hopes that the new Cascade campaign will inject much needed momentum to his State House push. More on that later on. More from the front page. This story has been leading actually all week. It's about Judge Said Chitembwe and his career being in limbo. That continues on page 2. The High Court Judge Said Juma Chitembwe is staring at an uncertain future after Judicial Service Commission yesterday recommended formation of a tribunal to investigate him over allegations of gross misconduct. Now a quick recap on that. Petitioners had last year moved to the JSC demanding the removal of the judge on claims he had taken a bribe to defeat the cause of justice. More on that later on. Still on the front page of the Star, Azimio la Umoja makes a U-turn on Raila's August running mate interviews. That was a really interesting story that has been developing over the course of the week. That is on page 3. Yes, so more on that later on. Like Jane was saying earlier on, parents are saying there's pain and desperation within the Form 1 admissions that was happening yesterday. So people are saying that, prices have doubled. For example, a box that was 1,200 shillings last year. This year is 2,500 shillings. So that's actually painful. You can imagine 1,200 shillings to 2,500 shillings.
That's
very, very painful.
Wow.
1%.
It's a lot.
Top.
Now you can imagine, okay, let's take a look at it from this perspective. That's just the box. So what about, the commodities that you're going to need when you're in school? What about the, stationery that you're going to need when you're in school? The school fees, the uniforms.
Yes.
So there were claims actually with this article on the Star that some of these, principals were demanding that you have to have like a full set of school uniforms given the state of the nation at this point in time. Doreen, what do you think about this?
And remember, these days, actually, in most schools, you get to buy these uniforms in that school with the price that the school has set for the parents. And this is just a box.
Just
have
the
factored
box.
in the cost of living just for basic commodities on top of that.
And just to add on to that story, even looking at this particular story, the saddest bit is here they've captured a story of a young boy. He's said to be an orphan. He actually just reported to school with that box. Nothing else inside. And they were given a whole list of requirements that they needed to report back to school with. Some even include a calculator, mathematical tables, and rim papers. Did we need calculators in Form 1?
You don't need a calculator in Form 1.
No, you don't.
That's actually...
Remember the scientific calculators?
Yeah.
Did we need them in Form 1?
No, you did not.
And now some schools are demanding that they also show up with some of these things. And actually yesterday, if you were to pass through town, you would see parents wakiwa, remember these long hard brooms, or mezibeba, others have buckets, others have so many other paraphernalia. You're like, wait, I know I was in school a number of years back, but it has changed this much.
It's like you're going with every single thing. And to add to that, some of these principals were saying that you have to clear the first term school fees, all of it,
to be admitted.
You're admitted to the school.
But you would also say they're put between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
Considering that every candidate that did the KCP exam has been placed in a school, and actually there was a school that actually all the candidates were placed in one school. From primary, they were placed to a specific school within the locality, all of them in one school. Considering these numbers and the fact that most schools have not added extra classrooms or built extra dormitories to accommodate all these kids, and most of them, are boarding schools. Mutapeleka watoto boarding school.
And we also have to contend with the issue of security and banditry in some parts of Baringo, like Kipia.
Where curfew has been imposed in some of these areas.
Yeah, there's a curfew as well in Marsabit, so quite a challenge this time around.
And the ministry was particular to place kids within schools that are closest to where they already were.
Yes.
Akuna kupelekwa sijui this other county because you did so well, it's a school you preferred, which is also something that parents are complaining about.
Yeah. Exactly. Like on the Star, it continues to read that parents are blaming the computerized selection for placing their children, to far schools. So it's a tricky situation for Form 1 students and their parents, but all shall be well, hopefully.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Kupatia watu moyo, all shall be well.
Yeah. And
all will be well.
Usipojipea moyo utapewa na nani?
At this point in time... But, at this point in time, you have to lead with hope. There's always a brighter tomorrow. Yeah. More on that later on, Doreen.
Actually, it looks like obviously that story is on Every Daily this morning. And even as you were talking about these students being placed in Form 1, you can remember that the CS yesterday had mentioned that there was going to be that 100% transition whereby over this 1 million candidates who sat for KCP are going to be placed in secondary schools. And now, as it turns out, there's a bit of clash between the school heads, that is the principals, and the ministry, because what the ministry right now is saying is that they did an assessment of various schools across the country and it showed that most of these schools are well equipped And this is why they resolved that no child should be denied secondary education. So it means that according to the ministry, every school actually has what it needs to have to ensure that every child is accommodated. Now, it's not sitting well with the school heads because they are the ones feeling the pinch, according to this particular article. Also, what you're waking up to this morning on the PD is the CEO HELB, that is Charles Ringera. He is saying that Kenyans should honor their obligations. This is when it comes to paying of their HELB loans, because he is saying that failure to this will render over 75,000 students at risk of not being funded for their further studies. So this is why he's saying that it is very important. And again, that the waiver has been extended from to June 30th. Initially, it was from March 1st to April 30th, but now that has been extended to June 30th, and it continues to urge Kenyans to just pay their HELB loans. Away from that, to some bit of politics, this story was also captured this morning on the GMK news briefs, whereby Azimio candidates are to face another round of vetting, and the flag bearer there also mentioned that they will be subjected to opinion polls as well as zoning. So it simply means that, for instance, looking at a party like Wiper, Jubilee, and particularly ODM, the candidate who is more popular is the one who will actually carry the who will fly the party ticket. And I mean, it's quite interesting because also I was having this conversation with Troy earlier on, since what exactly does it mean, given the fact that nominations are already done and nomination certificates were handed over to candidates, names submitted to IEBC, and far much we know as it pertains to that is that the names that are submitted are the ones that are going to carry the day when it comes to the August 9th general election. So going by what the Azimio coalition is saying, so basically what does this portend for those candidates who have already been handed over the party certificate, the various parties in this coalition? And also, army worms raid Kilifi. They leave trail of destruction. This has just happened in a span of 2 weeks at a time, whereby we are still grappling with the issue of drought, particularly in some parts of the country, most specific in the north eastern parts of the country. And this is just happening in Kilifi. When we get to the details, I'm telling you more about this particular story and article and what is happening in that county. And also, lastly, for Indomie lovers, bad news for you. According to COMESA, that is the common market for Eastern and Southern Africa. One of those favorites kind of foods, if I may say, amongst children and the young people, but it's not as good.
Let me tell you, Doreen.
A clear definition of fast food, 2 minutes, you're eating.
I'm a lover of this, by the way. You know, when you go to shopping, these things don't miss. It just doesn't miss.
When you have kids, na ukiwa na holiday wiki saba.
Your lunch kidogo na.
Kids eat like little, I don't know.
COMESA has released a report now. This may not just be good for your health.
I know. I read that story and I was like, the amount of noodles we have consumed.
Kasi Mungu, tungekuwa wapi?
I can only imagine, because I remember my days, bachelorhood. When you don't feel like cooking and going through the process of kukatakata nyanya, vitungu and all that. Noodles, eka maji.
Quick, fast.
Microwave, tosha.
But
good to go.
I think with noodles, whether bachelorhood or not, this is just one of those things you can't miss.
Foods that cut through time. Every gender. Siku moja jaribu kupikia mzazi wako noodles, lafu weke kamayai ama kanyama, ka red bell, yellow bell, wana venye watabambika nayo.
Kwanza kishafikiria point where uchemshi tu maji na uweke, unaikaranga mpaka na kila kitu.
Minimal effort with fantastic output.
Very fast. That's where the fast food came from.
But I think we need to catch a very quick breather before we get to continue with what the papers have for us. After this break, we'll be back with a quick look at the Standard with Troy. Do stay with us.
You know, Contra, I haven't forgotten about the fire that you threw in my cousin Teddy Hart's eyes.
Hart Foundation, your family is littered in tragedy. We're gonna finalize it.
Will Smith Jr. stepping up to Contra. What the hell? Who is that? Yeah! Let's get a hell of a super kick. It's Pillman. It's Pillman Jr.
Hart Foundation.
La campena sima bobosa na ngaite atayo zui bomengo una bateki oye bono kisanga ekikoluka musala ya secrétaire na yakite koteka nzoto na ngaye soki tende na kende na ngashetema na longo amo bomweza la tamatite amo bomweza la
André de Bakayoko, l'homme du peuple. Prends une photo. Bouka Kingo. Conseil comme mon cœur. Écoutez. Chanel Chabani.
Welcome back. This is Good Morning Kenya. Let's have a quick one on the Standard. This is how the front page looks like. And the man there walking literally into the future is none other than Professor Kithure Kindiki, who is a Tharaka Nithi senator. Headline, the man said to be Ruto's deputy. With slightly over a week remaining, presidential candidates to pick their running mate, Tharaka Nithi Senator Kithure Kindiki emerges as a favorite to deputize Kenya Kwanza leader in a shortlist that also had Gachagua as a contender. They say some of the things that have made the name Kithure Kindiki stand out: loyalty, temperament, experience, acceptability, public record, and Mount Kenya roots. I'm still stuck on the temperament because we've seen politicians who quite have a temper. But other than that, he is a professor, and they say that he was a key architect of Jubilee Coalition Agreement bringing together President Uhuru Kenyatta and DP Ruto. He also represented DP Ruto at the International Criminal Court. In other headlines, we have Azimio's big U-turn on running mate interviews. I think they borrowed a leaf from Kenya Kwanza, but saying that because they had talked about setting up a committee that will vet the running mate. And yesterday, the committee said, no, we have decided not to do the interviews. Forget the interviews. The parties are supposed to only send the DP name so that it could be considered by the selection panel, saying it's not mandatory for candidates to appear before it. Of course, some leaders, including Kalonzo Musyoka, had opposed, and his battalion had talked about this guy has been with you since 2013. We went to the ballot in 2017. We don't need any interviews. But some critics have argued that if at all you have to interview a doctor who will do your surgery, we also need somebody who will do our surgery to our economy to also be vetted. But anyway, it's politics. In other news, JSC judge in Sonko case to face tribunal. We're talking about that was actually one of the top stories in many newsrooms, that the fate of Justice Said Chitembwe lies in the hands of a tribunal to be appointed by President Uhuru Kenyatta after Judicial Service Commission recommended his suspension for gross misconduct. Actually, he had 3 petitions against him, and on 27th of April, the Judicial Service Commission panel recommended that he should be investigated. So what happens is that in 14 days, the head of state is supposed to appoint. Actually, he's first of all supposed to suspend the judge. He will be on half pay until he is cleared or he exits the judiciary. So the president will set up a tribunal to investigate his conduct. Well, there's some videos that surfaced of him appearing to be in a compromising position and also sub judice, that is discussing matters pending in court on camera. That is some of the issues that made the good judge soup boil. And inside we have 9 babies born at the same time. Mark first birthday in perfect health.
Wait.
Yes, 9 babies born at the same time, mark first birthday. Okay, I'm quite sure these parents really have a lot in their hands, literally. And they're talking about 30 weeks pregnancy term by which the 5 girls and 4 boys were born at 30 weeks. They weighed between half a kilo and 1 kilo, and they are in perfect health. There was only nuptuplets. I don't know the word. 9 babies born at the same nanoplets.
I was actually looking for
the nano, the technology. Actually, they seem to have been born via technology, but they have celebrated the first birthday and in perfect health.
I remember when that story came out last year, I was like, wait, 9. Kama moja unasikianga. Hey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. 9.
You know what I'm picturing?
9 perfect health.
Diaper duty for 9 babies.
When one starts to cry, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti,
do, ti.
You know the way multiples have a way they are so coordinated in some behaviors.
Yeah. Wow, this is
milk bottles, and they've survived 1 year. Wacha sasa waingie terrible too.
Moja akiamka wote, you have 9.
But the parents are doing a fantastic job.
Yes.
Even the government stepped in last year to just say they're going to be helping this family navigate this
it's just
version of parenthood.
It's the grace to do it. The parents just have the grace to do it. And to continue doing it.
Kila mtoto anakuja na sahani yake.
If there are some people who should receive the head of state commendation are the parents, man. Yeah.
Way.
9. Okay. Detectives study MP's firearm in investigations on death of his son. We are talking about the death of the son to nominated MP David Sankok, who allegedly shot himself in the head 2 days ago. They're investigating to know exactly what transpired and whether, they're talking about whether that firearm was licensed. There are some reports that it was actually a rifle. And you know, in Kenya, rifles are only allowed to be in the hands of disciplined forces and not civilians. All right, elsewhere, they're talking about the back to school. Yes, I'm quite sure. Is it all of us who have felt the pinch because of the schools back to school? Jane?
Aye.
Okay, yeah, the pinch they're talking about, of course, amid complaints of financial difficulties, as you had alluded to earlier, and they're talking about also insecurity, banditry, drought, you know? There were school feeding programs, and when in some schools like Baringo, they were having a lot of students or pupils when that program was going on. But now, because of insecurity, a lot has changed, and so it has also changed for the Form 1s who are supposed to be reporting. Some parents have lost their livestock as their only source of income. But something I've gotten from Kisumu boys, the principal, Eric Duya, agreed to allow all the students to report. Fees or no fees, you just come, just like Professor Magoha talked about. Fees or no fees, and ask parents to be paying in installments. The question is, what about the students who have not reported in parts of Marsabit, in parts of Baringo, in parts of Laikipia because of insecurity? And the CS also warned heads not to turn away students over uniform. And I think, Doreen, you had talked about how back in the days we used to go to school and then you buy the uniform from the school itself, as opposed to you coming with a sky blue, and somebody has a navy blue, another one has a parliament blue, and it's the same class.
Parliament blue.
you remember? Some have bigger shorts, you know. The shorts used to be like trousers, so vile una grow, ni wenyewe inakuwa sasa short. You are growing into that uniform. Anyway, former IEBC boss among those shortlisted for Court of Appeal, former Electoral Commission boss Isaac Hassan, among 135 applicants shortlisted for the Judicial Service Commission for the position of Court of Appeal and High Court judges. Question is, you do remember the Chicken Gate scandal? It might pop up in the interviews. I have had an opportunity to go and cover High Court judges' interviews. I've covered also Court of Appeal judges and also the Supreme Court judges, not to mention the Chief Justice. And integrity is the first and key thing they are after. And former IEBC boss, you do remember it was during his time when we had the Chicken Gate scandal, and all those who participated in that in London were fined, and the others went to jail. But here in Kenya, well, a story for another day. Jane?
Now, let me just quickly touch on that story concerning Sankok's late son. Here they go on to actually just to say what you have already touched on concerning this particular firearm. Detectives are now probing the registration status of this said firearm. It has been taken into custody. And you can remember they had mentioned that an autopsy was set to be done yesterday at a government facility, and it was done. The post-mortem examination that was conducted on the body on Tuesday evening by a government pathologist indicated, or rather confirmed, that the death was caused by a gunshot that passed through the minor's chin and exited at the top of his head. Now, according to the DCI, they say now they are, every member has recorded a statement, a total of 10 people, and they are now investigating how the boy gained access to the weapon. And so far, neither Sankok nor his wife have spoken publicly concerning this incident. So we just have to wait and see how the investigation continues in regards to that. And just to also add on to that story concerning High Court Judge Chitembwe, here they say that there were actually 4 petitions that were filed against him. 3 of them were eventually, 1 was terminated, 2 were withdrawn, and the remaining one is in regards to the JSC, which recommended to the president yesterday that a tribunal be set up to investigate the judge with the view of removing him from office. And the judge has 10 days to lodge an appeal against the recommendation, and should he fail to do so, the president will act on the recommendation that have been presented by the JSC. But according to his lawyer, he said, that is Peter Wenner, he said that the judge is ready to face off with his employer, the JSC, the tribunal, to prove his innocence, and maintains that the video were illegally obtained and cannot form the basis for Justice Chitembwe's removal from office. So again, this is a matter that is in court. We wait to see how it will play out. Now, let me bring you to this particular story. It's actually the main read on the front page of the Daily Nation concerning Kalonzo Musyoka's only options in the case of a running mate in the Azimio coalition. So here they go on to say that Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has but 2 options. Number 1, walking out of the coalition party as an individual. Mind you, he still has the right to do so because he is entitled to the right to support whichever political party or candidate he does without attracting legal consequences as an individual, not as Wiper party leader. Or the other option is to disregard the coalition agreement that he had signed on the premise that he would have, or rather still be presented as the flag bearer for the coalition. It goes back to that time he said that, he did sign a deal with Raila Odinga a number of years back that should he want to run for presidency, Raila would back him, and that was on the basis to which he penned an agreement with this particular coalition. But should he want to walk out and disregard this agreement, there will be some legal consequences that will come along with this, because he is required to give a 3-month notice in order to exit the coalition. And given the time frame that we have to the general election, it might not be viable for him, considering if he should want to run as the party leader for Wiper Party. But on the other hand, still in Azimio, there seems to be secrecy and suspicion in Azimio deputy role, and this is concerning the fact that the deputy president has been making statements and pushing for the Azimio coalition to name Kalonzo Musyoka as the running mate. They say that this is quote-unquote suspicious, and quoted here, they say that we think Ruto and Kalonzo have a secret pact. It wouldn't be a surprise, rather, if that were the case. And Kalonzo's behavior has been destructive all through. So they are seeking to wreck us from within. And according to another source, they say that the DP's camp was simply playing a psychological warfare with Azimio to have Musyoka named as Raila's running mate, so that Ruto can pick Musalia Mudavadi as his running mate, because according to them, they think, or rather they say that DP thinks Musalia has an upper hand over Kalonzo Musyoka due to the numbers that they bring in from their regions. Siasa mbaya.
So this is all about psychology at the end of the day. It's nothing to do with what really is making headwinds in news.
It's about the numbers that you're going to bring. So why don't you name this one? And then me, ukisha name huyo, I'll name this one, because this one has more numbers than the one you chose.
You know, some pundits said that much as IBC had extended that date to April 16th, you wouldn't be surprised when you actually see these two top candidates naming their running mates on the 15th at around 11:59, just before the clock ticks April 16th, because we are waiting to see who you are name nani Kwanza before I name mine.
And before I get to hand you over back to Mike, let me just quickly touch on this story concerning what the World Health Organization has said in regards to obesity. Okay, so food apps have been blamed for the rising cases in obesity, and not just in Kenya or in Africa, but the world over. In Kenya, they've gone on to indicate that there are more than 10 food delivery apps, I'm not going to be naming them, that are operating within the Kenyan space, and the increase in the number of app-based businesses delivering food to people's doorsteps are contributing to the high rise in obesity cases, according to the World Health Organization. People are consuming unhealthy foods with little exercise. Okay? And now the interesting part is when, according to this report, they say when you carry too much body fat, it increases the risk of disease, including 13 types of cancers, 2 types, diabetes type 2, heart and lung problems. And should this trajectory continue, currently we're looking at 1.2 million deaths as a result of obesity. That is about 13% of all fatalities. And according to the World Obesity Federation, 8.4% of children aged between 5 and 9 in Kenya are likely to become obese by 2030. Pizza.
Yeah, and you get into your house on Friday, you order food Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and you come to work on Monday, you've added 2 kilos.
And you sit in an office.
Yes, and you sit in an office.
8 to
Makes
5.
things worse.
But they've gone on to judge parents, and they say some parents are giving the children pizza and deep fried chicken as a sign of love.
Or reward, for that matter.
I feel like it's more of a bribe.
Kiosha nyumba, kuna pizza.
Interesting. Mike?
Yes, now on the Star, there's a really Sad story. A missing girl was found dead after a 2-week search in Githurai. More on the story is a 12-year-old girl who went missing 2 weeks ago has been found dead after a frantic search for her in Githurai. According to police and the missing child Kenya, the body of Maureen Wangoi Kioi was first reported missing on April 20th at Githurai Mweki police station and discovered on May 1st. Maureen, a pupil at Githurai 45's Juta Academy, was last seen wearing a black hoodie and matching trousers around Mount Kenya area of the Kiambu County neighborhood, and it is not yet clear what happened to her and the motive behind the murder. So to put this in perspective, at least one case or a missing child is reported to the police every day.
Wow. Every day.
Every single day. That's, you need to let that marinate for a minute and just put that into perspective.
It's a scary world.
It's actually quite scary when you think about it. It's quite scary when you think about it. This being Entertainment Thursday, on to lighter news. Creative industry is losing 252 million shillings daily to piracy. Although I feel like this is nothing new. I feel like ever since the dawn of the internet, there's always been piracy. So more on this, the creative industry advocates, partners against piracy, have called for legal protections against copyright infringement to be implemented within 100 days. Marking this year's World IP Day celebration last Wednesday at Studio 4, PAP interim convener Mike Strano said this would stem losses of 92 billion shillings a year to online piracy. Another 32 billion shillings is lost to pirated video content, affecting creators on Safaricom Base, My Movies Africa, Netflix, Showmax, YouTube, and more streaming platforms. What do you think can be done? Because I feel like this has always been, but I feel like it's more aggressive these days, the piracy.
Doreen, being an industry player,
what do you feel can be done to curb this?
This is actually a conversation we'll just be having at exactly 8 a.m. with one of those biggest industry players. He is better placed to tell us. He's been in the industry for over 10 years.
Wow. So hopefully we'll get some answers there. We'll
get some nuggets to understand. Because, I mean, it's really has been a conversation. And sometimes there's that talk of basically artists, they do not know how to copyright their intellectual property. There's no proper awareness, or if I may say sensitization or even education to know how to do this. We've heard of cases where, not even of cases, I think just the other day, where, is it Simple Boy who was saying that in his previous management, things were very thick for him. Yet yendo mwenye talent, yendo msanii.
I think there's truth to that, but it's a double-edged sword, because on one side, there's that whole aspect of not knowing, and knowledge is power. Not knowing, as an artist, my intellectual property, how do I protect it? What even can be quantified as intellectual property? And we're seeing so many young and upcoming artists making a beat, putting in a verse, aneka social media, it goes viral, everybody starts using it, and that's the end of that.
You're not protected.
Not protected,
No.
not earning from anything. And we're also seeing some people who, whenever you use their music or any of their creations, and you do not acknowledge or even just have any contact to them, you are actually, whatever video or footage you had put up and featuring that music is actually pulled down because you're violating somebody else's rights in one way or the other. So, and this also goes to the collective management organizations, artists getting management to just help them navigate these waters. And sadly, not all of them can afford to get management or have access to this information. And my question is, will we ever, if we're being honest, get to a time where piracy is a distant past?
No. Okay. Okay, here's the thing.
If you're being honest.
I
Looks like
agree
a
with Doreen
far-fetched
fully.
idea.
I agree with Doreen fully with regard to lack of awareness. People are not aware. For instance, on YouTube, especially during this, whole lockdown phase of the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of content creators started mushrooming on YouTube and all these other social medias like TikTok and such and such. But they have no idea that that content needs to be,
protected
under copyright protection, because even as kids, that's a script. You need to copyright that script. You just came up with even if you came up with it, within 2 minutes, that's still something that is worthy of our copyright protection. So, people need to look into that.
And it goes back to the definition of intellectual property. What does it cover? What does it protect? What is intellectual property? Because somebody would say, it's just a random YouTube or TikTok video.
It's just
but it is an original idea.
It is an original idea. Before we move on to the next story, and this is actually one of the best stories I've ever read. I'm going to leave you guys to be the judges of that. But before we move on to that, let me give a quick tip. Anything recorded, even if it's a voice note, is worthy of copyright protection. You can't copyright a thought, but if you record anything, whether it's 1 minute or 2, copyright it. I hope we're in agreement there. So this is an article that I think the ladies, Troy, we need the ladies to answer this one. Confidence. This is the headline of the article, Confidence. Why women are attracted to Frankie.
Frankie just gym it.
Frankie just gym it. He's just gymming it.
I don't think that you can ask that question to women.
Because Troy and I are not in a position to answer any of the questions in this article.
Yes.
So
please,
let's get from Frankie's mouth.
From the horses.
Frankie Kiarie says women are attracted to him because he carries himself with confidence. This is something on the paper.
Confidence is attractive.
Confidence. It is. All right.
Do not misquote me, Mike. I can hear you taking a deep breath to misquote me. Do not put words
I'll just say different women are attracted to different things.
But confidence is one of them.
And I'd leave it at that.
Okay, now let's put this in context for the people who don't know who Frankie Just Jim it is. Frankie Kiarie, he recently had a breakup with his second baby mama, Corazon Kwamboka, months after welcoming the second child and 6 months after he engaged Corazon Kwamboka. Speaking to the paper, he said he's still single and in a relationship with God. But the main reason why women find him attractive is because of his confidence.
So this is him saying?
Him.
So it's not the women saying, it's actually him who thinks that.
I think it's because some people think that when you're confident, you know exactly what you should do or you are a problem solver.
Let me tell you one thing.
They think you know everything, so you should.
From a woman's point of standing.
Okay.
Imagine you're in your home, somebody broke in. You're just there with your partner and your kids.
Okay.
Alafu mwande manakuja kujificha nyuma yako.
That is courage. That's not confidence.
No, you defending me will show me that, hey man, this guy trusts in himself, he's confident in himself.
Now I get
Jane. So tusipige nduru si wote wawili.
But then let me tell you one thing. We are living in a time where women are saying, I like to see a man who shows his emotions, who's sensitive, who allows me in. But let me tell you, when a man shows a woman their vulnerable nature, it scares women.
Oh,
yes,
it does.
It scares women, and yet, wanawake wanasema nini? Show me your softer side. Show me, and this is a very controversial conversation, so don't come at me. But it is something that I also had to understand from a man's point of standing. We say we want them to be vulnerable with us, but can you handle that vulnerability?
Softer side of life. Anyway, guys, there's something I saw here. And I think it's going to bring a lot of confidence in Nairobi. They are talking about we might decide to move Nairobi. So even the confidence itself is gonna go.
To move it to where?
We could, actually. Some countries have done that. Nairobi is busting, it seems. Is it time to relocate the capital? Some countries have done that.
Accommodate more.
It cannot accommodate
the
more.
space?
Some countries like Myanmar. Like Myanmar, the capital city was like Mombasa. And now they moved it to now Nairobi. 4.3 million people population Nairobi according to 2020 Kenya Bureau of Statistics. 30 million the people who are in Jakarta. It has burst its banks now. They're thinking of, can we relocate?
Ama ndio maana iliitwa Nairobi Metropolis to accommodate the neighboring Kajiado, Kiambu, next Machakos iletwe. Hivyo ndo inaanzanga.
Alafu because continue with this traffic and the population is just keeping on, then we will not have anywhere to go unless tutengeneze ma first floor, barabara, second floor,
and all that. But still, Nairobi is the hub. When you look at when you look at most of this company's industries, a lot of activities is in Nairobi. The GDP of this city compared to other cities, capitals, I mean other cities as well. So the practicability of that, particularly for our country, I'm not so sure about it.
Well, to ngoje tuone what this government and the next one will do.
And don't forget,
with regards to that.
Doreen, as you wind up, the Keep Keino Classic. Stars have already arrived. Sherian Fraser Prize is right here in Kenya. We also have America's Kelly, who was the Olympic silver medalist. And we have our very own Omanyala, among other long and middle distance race runners. It's going to be epic on Saturday at the Kasarani Stadium.
All right, so with that, we have wrapped this first segment of Good Morning Kenya, and as always, so much more in terms of entertainment is coming up in just a bit, so do stay with us. We shall return.
Does this mean you are now seeing eye to eye?
Tito, what kind of a question is that? Si wanaonana macho kwa macho.
Class, I want to say that Mr. Fritsch and I, we have decided to put our differences aside.
You want to be what? Campaign manager. You messed me in my dream. You want to mess me again? Stupid.
Kenyanchu niko very fresh. Wacha nikwambie Kenyanchu. Unajua umoja ni nguvu, utengana ni utaifa.
Bibi acha niendelea kutengana. Wewe hebu jipe shughuli, niko very busy. I am very busy. Wewe wasiana kunisumbua ate business partner na makwapa yangu.
So guys, let me tell you.
Classmate.
At the time, Shannon was in my office too.
What do you mean? You suspect that Shannon stole it?
I'm your daughter. You raised me. Don't you know what kind of person I am?
Pauline, tell me who gave this ring to you.
My uncle gave it to me. He said it belonged to my mum. You hurt me, Pinky.
To give this villa to Pinky.
Los que éramos ayer y los que seremos más.
Gonzalo, wouldn't it be better to end the whole thing once and for all?
No. I don't know how he got to the hospital.
So, you don't know how he found out?
No, I don't know. Nothing.
One of the partners of my father was from there. That's him. Yes, that's him. Edgar Almonte Esquero. I'm very sure.
Julieta.
Yes.
Julieta.
Mr. Adrian, there's someone to see you.
See me? Who?
Yes. It's me. I don't like to keep on having debts.
You still have a debt with me. You said that you owe me one, right?
Sasa uvalishwe taji.
Allo, Sedo. Allo, kama we ni mwenyeji, we ni mwenyeji. Allo, kama we si mwenyeji, mind your business. Kau nataka ule anaichapa mpaka ilale, basi harakisha njona. Bima inanukia shasha mane, ustupe nini kwa flona. Super komudia ladha gane, gnezenda fast au slow. Baby, Eva nikisikia mapop malen, kitafta plan ya do. Yeah. Tuanzishi vita, tunamaliza. Nani ukinita, tuma mamita. Au malipsinka, wanawaingiza. Napanda stage, na una miujiza. Baba wakeja, wananitia, wananiiga. Likuwa na choma mpaka kwa filter, kabadoko ushago. Hello, life iko order. Bako kweli na sound unachocha.
Vile naifanya sio hoja. Huku isi ni si tunazoza. Tunaifanyaga proper,
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 properly tunaifanyaga proper,
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 properly tunaifanyaga. Dai number 2 wakanichuta daro, songa jenga shule wajua lipe karo. Sasa mimi ndio speaker Frankole Kaparo, matutas napiga ki Usman Kamaru. Kwa fam ya kipang sikutoka, so fam ya kipang kitatoka kwa mimi. Amini ni jasho na damu zinatoka kiroga, hinjili na treat kama dini. Saima device inakuja na mzinga, wananidai na nijuzi waliringa. Mungu akisansi unajua uwezi pinga, odds iko right mimi sichezi na tinga. Okay, kifemi kijembe kikali, bila budi na bidwa kubali. Pata jali ujwe nani ya kujali, hii maisha ni tamu na jes na makali.
Life iko order, bako kweli na sound unachocha.
Vile naifanya sio hoja, huku isi ni si tunazoza. Tunaifanyaga proper,
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 properly tunaifanyaga proper,
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 properly tunaifanyaga.
Yes, nani yako in the zone, aje. Na ana feel right at home, aje. Utajua nilikuwa kwa chuom, aje. Na harufu ya cologne, sorry. Na sijaiko saka form, sorry. Last year niliuza my phone, sorry. Jana niliota na perform, sorry. Na kabla kuota niliperform. Short now you know kwa cliff. Kabla ujue mambo ya drone. Granda imejaa na kif. Na grind nikana clone. Kiulizana nani kuija pa mimi nasikianga kama nakoseshi. Mwezi ni pima, mwezi ni zima. Na nimeingia nasikia wananiambia life iko order. Bako kweli na sound unachocha.
Vile naifanya sio hoja, huku isi ni si tunazoza. Tunaifanyaga proper,
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 properly tunaifanyaga proper,
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 properly tunaifanyaga.
Life iko order, bako kweli na sound unachocha.
Vile naifanya sio hoja, huku isi ni si tunazoza. Tunaifanyaga proper,
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 properly tunaifanyaga proper,
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 properly tunaifanyaga.
Like a pee-pee mama, I can't fight, I can't kill someone for you, because I'm in a danger zone. Oh no. feeling that I'm feeling. It's too much. I see future, life with you is so brighter. Nakupenda sana, you know that. I'll die for you. Oh, sweetheart, life with you is so sweeter. Nakupenda sana, you know that. Nakupenda sana, you know that. Yeah. Na hakuna kipya kwenye dunia. Oh my love, bado wanatamana zizuia. Oh my love, natupa maelfu kwa mamia in this world. Ila wewe pekee liwe kuchagua. I swear to God, na umebarikiwa utu na utulivu. Umebarikiwa utu na utulivu. Licha ya upole na uzuri na utu na utulivu. Umebarikiwa utu na utulivu. Siku zote maumivu yapo kutufunza. Tukipata furaha jinsi gani ya kuitunza. Huko nyuma hukumu zilishanikumba. Kama tesa kung'ang'ania pendo sipopendwa. Nilifosi kujificha kule, kumbe chakalangu ni hapa. Sasa napewa amani, mapenzi yasio na mipaka. Ananikanda huku mabegani, ananishika na hapo. Masaji mgongoni yananilevya makopa. Na hakuna kipya kwenye dunia. Oh my love, bado wanatamana zizuia. Oh my love, natupa maelfu kwa mamia in this world. Ila wewe pekee liwe kuchagua. I swear to God, na umebarikiwa utu na utulivu. Umebarikiwa utu na utulivu. Licha ya upole na uzuri na utu na utulivu. Umebarikiwa utu na utulivu.
Fast conversation on matters entertainment this Thursday morning. We just want to better understand about the creative space in this industry. You can remember that earlier on we talked about the copyright issue and perhaps it being a far-fetched idea. Are we ever going to achieve that, particularly in the arts space? We want to talk about that and so much more. My guest is already here. That is Alan Shioso. He is a playwright, a music director, and a performing artist. Karibu sana to the program.
Asante sana.
Before we talk about your story, your journey, your directing, your music and all that, let's start from that convo that we just had. And you're already in this studio by the time we're having about that conversation concerning copyright. When in Sani, umekuwa industry for a while.
10 years now. 10 years now.
Is there any issues that most artists talk about? Talk about creative content creators, music, people in music, even in arts, acting and all that. What is the problem?
Actually, I feel the issue is policies. There are parastatals in government, like let's say Kekobo, Kenya Copyright Board. We have MCSK, Music Copyright Society of Kenya, that's handling music. The bodies are in place, but they are not functioning because the policies are not stable, and for lack of a better word, the systems within the bodies are corrupt. That is why it is not working. Like for example, I wonder, for an artist like me that I'm not known, I'm not sure if I'll ever get royalties, for example, in today's capacity as a performing artist, as a musician per se, if I can be able to monetize my product, that is music. If somebody like BN of Sauti Sol reaps royalties close to 1,112 shillings.
What about you?
From MCSK, that is. So sembuse mimi
na wewe hujulikani bado.
Nasijulikani, and Sauti Sol is an international brand. So it's a very big issue that I feel it needs to be addressed. We need stable policies that will govern these parastatals and see a way that the government can help the youth and the art industry at large to monetize their product.
Okay,
considering there are no employment opportunities nowadays and people are learned. It's very unfortunate.
All right, I hear you. I mean, and it's so easy to always say the government, stakeholders, various bodies. But again, there's that other issue of education or awareness. Are artists even aware that they need to protect the intellectual property? You just heard my colleague Mike saying that mtu anaandika script anafeel ni a minute or 2 minutes, hiyo ni kitu kidogo, wacha nieke, but we don't understand the magnitude of what you're putting out there. So is that even is that also a challenge or an issue?
That is an issue and a challenge, of course, because I'd say most artists are ignorant to the fact that there's something called IPR, intellectual property rights. So the moment any form of art needs to be copyrighted, and there are those provisions in Kekobo, like as a writer, you can copyright your script. As a musician, you can copyright your score. That is music written in word form and in audio. You can copyright your films, your short videos. But most of the youth, or let's say most of the artists, are ignorant to this fact. So I feel the solution to this, back to the government.
Yeah.
They need to create like platforms for civic education, matters IPR. And I think most people will be now able to understand matters intellectual property rights and how they'll be able to copyright their content and monetize to make a living out of it. And in this case, sustainable living. Not just handouts.
Not just handouts, because again also that has been a thing, particularly kwanza kwa wasanii. Bora naweza pata kitu moja kidogo.
It's very unfortunate. Jina kubwa, pesa ndogo.
Tunakujua lakini hakuna kitu kwa mfuko.
Exactly. Leads to depression.
Exactly. We've seen that by the lot in the in this kind of industry, in the art space.
True.
When you talk about the ignorance bit, does this also still narrow down to that aspect of when you look at a good number of artists? And I always keep saying on this show that when you talk about artists, it cuts across anyone in the art space. Does it run down or boil down to the fact that good number of them don't understand the business side of this industry and just heavily rely on the fact that I am talented, so that's good to keep me going?
Very true. Most people don't know how to commoditize their art in terms of packaging your art into a product that can earn revenue for you. There's a thin line between art and craft.
Okay.
So music in its form is also a craft, and an artist who draws also is an artist in that capacity. So the only thing we need to do, it seems easy by word of mouth, but people have to research. People have to find their market niche in terms of creativity and how they'll package, they'll find a way of standing out to attract sales in terms of selling their content. It takes time, it takes research, it takes resilience, hard work. It is not easy. But if at all it comes from the heart, you have to keep on doing it. So let's not just focus on talent. In this industry, talent is 1%. Hard work, perspiration, and all these things are 99%. And unfortunately, we have most talented artists who don't know how to commoditize their art. So people should research and let us have this conversation. Let's talk to each other. Let's engage the experienced parties in the field, and we'll find a way out.
So it's just, saying that usi rely so much on your talent. There's a bigger part to actually make money from your talent.
Very true.
And that bit of research is what good number of artists miss to do.
Exactly. The youth.
The youth.
The
or the ones coming up.
Microwave generation. We don't want to work. That is the issue. People want to be famous without working. Yes, at some point you will be famous, but of what benefit is the fame without the money? It will make your life more miserable. So you'd rather take time to study your art, master your art, know how to create avenues for revenue generation, and all these things will fall into place. Because the moment you focus on the product, it will attract money, because quality attracts money.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. You talked about handouts and how good number of artists heavily rely on that. But then again, there's that other aspect of, take this case in point. This is an upcoming artist, and we are talking about talent just being 1%, and the rest, which is the business side, taking the bigger chunk of this industry. But someone will tell you, ndo ninaanza, pesa ya kulipa manager, kulipa hizi vitu zingine zote natoa wapi, yet I'm supposed to invest in all of this for it to bring it back to me some sort and source of revenue or income.
True, it's hard because there's a big gap between mentorship of experienced artists and the upcoming artists. I think the only way to bridge that gap is let the upcoming artists reach out, because you take so much time, and I'm a good example. You take so much time to break through, to create that breakthrough the moment you don't have a mentor, because you're just creating art in space. No direction, no nothing. So I feel for the sake of goodwill and the experienced artists to give back to the upcoming artists, they should offer mentorship to those who are willing to come up to them. Because you cannot be given anything on a silver platter. You have to work for it. So I feel mentorship will bridge the gap to kill these handouts story, and let people be patient. Art is not for the faint-hearted. I'm telling you for a fact.
You've been here for a while.
I've been there. If you're doing art for the sole purpose of making money, then you're in the wrong career, or you're in the wrong industry.
So art is being done for what?
Art should come from a passion point of view, and you must fulfill your purpose through art. The rest will come, will be added unto you.
So where anza na passion?
Anza na passion, have a supplementary avenue for sustainability in terms of basic needs in your life. But use your gift in art specifically to serve your purpose in life. That money will come. It only takes one opportunity for things to turn around. But until that time comes, you have to work. There's no shortcut. You can ask Kina Sauti Sol.
They will tell you.
Calligraph. They'll tell you. They'll tell you.
You are saying that it's necessary and important to have a supplementary as you are trying to climb that ladder. But don't you think when you say that, you are agreeing with the fact that this is an industry whereby it's like a side? Unasikia vile wanasemanga art ni side hustle. So ukisema ati wewe kuanga na something as you're doing to supplement, don't you think you're agreeing with that fact, and it more or less like makes us not to actually take it to the seriousness that it deserves as a main hustle, or as an industry that can pay and give you income?
Actually, art is not a side hustle in the present Kenya. It's a narrative that has been peddled since back then, because art has never been taken seriously in Kenya. But right now the dynamics are totally different. So that is what has made art stall in terms of people considering it as a full-time career. But we have to look for solutions. There's something called entrepreneurship. You can be an artist who is working, let's say in any other organization. So you bridge the gap between that. For us to change the narrative, it's not easy. I won't lie. It's not easy. We need to sanitize the industry. They consider artists as wale watu wa sarakasi. It's very bad. Nowadays, in corporate social responsibility, artists are involved in product promotions, in very many things as far as the corporate world is concerned. So we are changing the narrative through that, because for you to build a brand that stands out, you need to pump in money. And you can't pump in money that is not there. So you have to look for an avenue to pump in money into your art. The moment it stabilizes, then you focus fully on your art. So I'm not saying art, as for me, it's full-time.
Art for you is full-time. All the way.
Full-time.
Ikijipa sawa.
Kabisa.
Ikikosa, I did my best.
I'll tell God when I meet him.
You gave me this gift and talent, and I pursued it to the latter.
Exactly.
So in your perspective, do you think that piracy and ending all that is a far-fetched idea?
It is possible. Everything is gradual, and as I said in the beginning of the interview, policies. I believe in structures that are well put for things to work, because every unit in a system has to be in sync for things to run, and I'm glad Dr. Ezekiel Mutua is back. I hope magic is going to happen in MCSK, because we saw the strictness in KFCB. I hope the same is going to shift for MCSK in terms of royalties. Artists need to earn from their royalties, and I feel we are not yet there. If the established artists cannot rely on Kenyan royalties fully, what about the upcoming artists? So I feel the government should just step up, because let us have technocrats in these bodies, people who are working to deliver, not people who are working to feed their bellies, not tumbocrats.
And people who understand the industry as well.
Exactly, people who have been in the game, who understand the toil in the game, not people who have been in boardrooms and are being put in the parastatals to run these things. It can't work.
Because I feel also that's the thing. I mean, when you get someone who quote unquote understands the area, he or she has been there, has seen, has been through those hardships, then at least when you get there, maybe a bit easy to implement some of these things that you're talking about. And you have a story, you're talking about the hardships and how difficult it was, art not being taken seriously. Your dad didn't take you as a serious person when you said you wanted to venture into art.
I hope he's watching. But
how did that go like for you?
It is very hard. Actually, I studied a different course away from the arts, because you know my father believes to death art
even
is
up
not,
till now 10 years later
art is not a safe career space for me in terms of job security. So but you know, sometimes when you grow you have to do what you believe in. So that is purpose, but I don't discredit his efforts. I went to school. I'm using the knowledge to uplift my art. They
always say every parent wants the best for their children.
Exactly.
How was it like for you just talking to him? Because you did hospitality and tourism.
Management.
But but deep down in your heart, in your spirit, New Sunny all the way. This is what you wanted to do. You expressed it. You talked about it to him, to your parents, to your folks, to your people, but still they sent you to hospitality school. 10 years later, you're still doing art, but bado kuna ile formia. They still don't believe in this kind of industry or craft so much. How is this like for you, and what really keeps you aground?
It is hard. I won't lie. It is very hard, but by the grace of God, we are here. We've been up and down in terms of revenue generation, in terms of sustainability, but as I told you before, I feel my purpose lies in art, because I've touched so many lives through art. As a playwright, I've written plays for schools for very long. I've directed plays, I've done commercial theater, I've done films. Right now I'm doing music. I'm directing music for plays and films. So my fulfillment comes in when somebody approaches me and tells me, I really appreciate your effort in building my talent. Now, that is what keeps me going.
So for you, it's the fulfillment of that purpose, regardless of what comes your way.
Because at the end of the day, people will never remember me for what I have or for what I had. They'll remember me for the mark I left in the society. So that's why I believe this mark can only be achieved through art.
How then do you manage to do all this? I mean, write, direct, you also play drums, but that was way back. Because see, sometimes they will say, just get your space. Kama ni kuandika, we kuanga tu kiandika. Let's know you for writing. But you also do directing. I mean, you also perform. So then how do you do all these things together? And which one of this all would you say that this is actually my biggest strength?
In business, there's what we call SWOT analysis. Strength, weakness, opportunity, threats. So as a writer, I believe as a writer, that is my strength. So I try package my writing skills in playwriting into music. The same as the acting skills into my performance as a musician. That is what creates my brand or that is what makes my brand stand out. So I try focus so much. Of course, art is wide, but you have to focus on your strength. You must capitalize on your strength for you to stand out. And I feel my strength is in writing and performing. So with acting as a supplement, it really helps me stand out. Now that is my main focus. Yeah.
Okay. Talk to us about your event coming up on the 14th and 15th of May. And then you're saying that this is actually, what did you say? It's new in our East and Central Africa live music show. I mean, haven't we seen live music show, particularly from like the bands you kept mentioning, Sauti Sol and the likes? What makes yours peculiar?
It's very new. Actually, it's a revolution. Trust you me. It has never been done before, because I've found a gap in between acting, dance and music, and telling a story across the three aspects of art at the same time. So it's something new. It's even challenging to me as a person, but we have to do it. You know, the train left the station, so there's no turning back. The show is called Daddy Illusions, from Daddy Solutions, a true love story based on a variety of experiences in life, like what we go through as men, as youth, in relationships, in general life. Because, you know, love is very wide. From the Greek mythology, there's the eros and the what? The storge and agape. Agape, the love of God, and eros, the romantic love, and storge, platonic love, the love we have between brothers and sisters, friends, etc. So the show cuts across love in different dimensions and in different emotions. It is a roller coaster of emotions. There's a heartbreak, there is a party scene somewhere, but in a storytelling manner, from song number 1 to the last song.
So that's song number 1 to song number?
To song number 23. Original,
you're going to live perform that live. 20 songs?
Yeah, 23 songs. 23 that is close to 2 hours, 15 minutes.
And all this you've live, composed?
Originally composed, written, arranged.
10 years sio time kidogo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a tall order, even for me. But the moment we achieve it, I believe the rest will be history.
And all this is encompassed in dance, the music that you're talking about, and acting.
Yeah.
How is the execution of this going to look like? Maybe that's actually, you're saying that is sort of
totally
different. Because we have seen in theater, I mean the plays, we just see acting, a bit of infusion of, a bit of some music, a bit of some dance. When you look at the live performances, particularly for the likes of Sauti Sol, we just see them sing all through for, you know, an hour and 50 minutes or 2 hours or so. So bringing all these other forms of art encompassed in this kind of performance.
We are using stylistic devices. Like the main, a song is a poem, so poetry is the main style through the songs, and the main style of dramatization is mime, because we are dramatizing what is happening in the songs. Like a character is a persona that is in each and every song. There's a persona who is the main character. Every song has a story that leads to the other. So in terms of presentation and the literary devices, we're employing like let's say iconography, the literature devices. Iconography, there's picturesque, there's juxtaposition, there's mime, there's
like
symbolism.
When you say these things, you need to be telling us what exactly.
Yeah, exactly. There are things we studied in high school in literature and fasci, like symbolism, how we use symbols of love on stage. For example, iconography is the aspect of the pictorial composition of the show itself in terms of picture. On stage, dance. We are using dancers to tell a story. You get? There's a way you can tell a story through dance without communicating. So we call that mime to music. Yeah. So that is what I'm serving, guys.
Wow, this looks like a lot. I can just imagine the kind of, you know, rehearsals. I mean, in theater, when you just do rehearsals, nakwangania your script, you go do your thing.
Get the lines.
Get the lines.
Direction.
Just make sure that also everything in terms of your facials is also good. You are so immersed in the script so you understand better. But this one, trying to bring what you're singing to me acting out.
It's a cocktail of all these things. That's why I'm telling you,
It's
it
a lot.
has never happened.
It's different.
It is
so people should
totally
actually
different.
come and watch you do this.
Yeah.
Where
I
can they get the
cannot
tickets?
explain more. It can only be done. Yeah, the tickets are at www.ticohub.co.ke. Yeah, the posters are on my socials. That is on Facebook. Just search for Alan Shioso. Search for Ton Tenors on Instagram. Search for Javit on Instagram. That is GERVIT. All the links are there and the directions on how to purchase the tickets are there.
Okay, and the tickets go for what, 1,000 bob?
Regular 1,000 bob, a group of 5 at 4,000, couples ticket at 1,600. Yeah.
In your perspective, what do you think has really caused a lot? Because right now we still talk about how we need to embrace our theater spaces. I mean, all these things happen in the theater, whether it's the dance, the music, the acting, all this encompassed together. But I don't know if it's like an African culture or just a Kenyan culture. We don't see this, or we don't take it with the seriousness that it deserves. We don't think it's important and necessary. Yet most of what happens there is basically talking about what we face as a society. The issues affecting us as a society, whether as young people, older people, depending on the demographic.
Yeah.
What really is causing us not to take it with the seriousness that it deserves, and at least to appreciate that space?
Personally, I feel, art is a mirror of the society.
Yeah.
So for us to attract larger audiences, we need to speak the audience's language. In terms of, like right now in the theater space, we are addressing emerging issues that touch people directly. You can only convince somebody if you address an issue that affects them directly. Like back in the days, we were just doing theater for entertainment. Nowadays, there is an aspect of edutainment in the theater space. We address issues that affect people directly, like mental health is an issue presently, gender-based violence, you see, matters, involvement of youth in politics. It is very crucial. So we try address fresh themes that will attract more masses and use the platform for edutainment, not necessarily entertainment. Yeah.
Is this why you're calling your kind of craft ice music?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, my music, depending on the recipient or the consumer, it's upon you to determine if my music is reggae, soul, R&B,
so utasema ati
rumba,
uko na
classical.
specific style?
No, my music is ice music. It's upon you as the consumer to determine the feeling you're getting from my music. Because in my music, I inspire, I challenge, I edutain the mind. So, and as you know, ice is cool. So my music is cool. Ice music.
Don't
but
you think
for this specific show, I'm focusing on the edutainment pillar.
Part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you also talked about issues facing men and youth.
Yeah.
Why men and youth? I mean, don't we have women and girls?
Of course, from, love directly is from a female perspective, and we really appreciate that. So we are trying to address issues from the female perspective. But like, for example, the issues affecting men. In the show, I'm addressing masculinity issues. For
And
example,
you can't say
I can't, let people come and watch. There's a song specifically on GBV and masculinity.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot for people to actually go there and watch.
You'll enjoy and learn.
Enjoy, and that's the point of art. And actually, that is where we are taking our art to also be in that space, not just to feel entertained, but also to learn. Art is sort of like getting revolutionized,
exactly,
so to speak. What in your, I mean, at what point would you say in your 10 years journey, because I mean 10 years is no mean feat, it's quite a long time, and you've told us what keeps you aground, just ensuring that you actually get there and your purpose is fulfilled at the end of the day. But at what time would you say that this was actually your difficult time, you almost contemplated giving up? I mean, because we have heard of many stories, particularly of artists committing suicide.
True.
It's not easy in this space.
It is very hard, because art in a complex form, an artist is considered as a demigod. Let me say that in quotes, because people expect you to be perfect.
Yeah.
People expect,
and to have it all together.
Yeah. they don't feel like you're a human being who can mess or have some weaknesses. So that is what pushes people to the wall. Even the established artists, like for example, Avicii committed suicide, and he was very popular. He had established himself. He had so much money. So probably you might wonder what happened for him to commit the act. For me personally, during COVID, it was the hardest moment of my artistic life. But
and you feel like hata hiki tu si lazima.
Nilifikiria kunyoa nywele. I go back to the hospitality industry, but I remembered the hotels were also closed, so I just had to
continue doing what your heart loves.
Exactly.
All right. So tukimalizia Shio, what should Kenyans expect, those that are watching even particularly about your event and going forward in the art space or art industry?
So now under Tontena's entertainment, we have a vision for this country and for the youth. You know, there's a big gap between people who are learned and they lack space to exercise their talent. So the product we are creating actually is not going to favor I as a person alone, because it's going to create an avenue for employment opportunities. And as a company, we feel by Vision 2030, we can generate an eighth of this country's GDP through the products we are creating right now, because they cut across culture, and Kenya is very diverse. So many youth can use our platform to put out their art, and probably it will go international. You never know.
All right.
Thank you so much. The merrier.
Okay, thank you so much for making time. That is Alan Shioso, a playwright, music director, and performing artist, talking to us about his art. We take a quick break. We return with plenty more. Stay with us.
At the time, Shannon was in my office too.
What do you mean? You suspect that Shannon stole it?
I'm your daughter. You raised me. Don't you know what kind of person I am?
Pauline, tell me who gave this ring to you. My uncle gave it to me. He said it belonged to my mum. You hurt me, Pinky.
To give this villa to Pinky.
Kwa ufupi hawa ni watu wangu mimi.
Mzee, you can call it kahindi, kahi.
Ni watu wazima mkikosana, mwataka sisi tuige mfano wa nani?
Dadangu, huoni aibu? Aibu ungeiona wewe Kate ilokuzunguka, right, left and center.
Nilidhani haya mambo ya leo tushawachana nayo. Kwa hivyo sijakukasirisha. Unanisinya uwe.
ningekuwa dead 8 feet under, lay to rest. What a fate. Shukran, it's a grace. SJF, SJF, oh la la la. SJF, SJF, oh na na na. Shukran.
Yeah, najua ni crazy venye wanatufikiria. Wanatuita wezi japo talanta mziki tunafanya na hiyo kutoa kwetu hawezi. Wacha nipige show, nipate maganji nilipekeja mwisho wa mwezi. Najua wengine wakifa huwa wanaambiwa rest in peace soldiers, japo sikumbuki ni ami gani walikuwa. Walipita njia panda, walicheza mchezo wa paka na panya, na sasa wamepatikana wamewekwa 6 feet under. Mimi nashukuru Shadrack kwa kukuja na kuingilia kati, yani shukran kwa Razaki Molana, umenitoa mbali, umeniepusha dari kubondwa na gari. Si mziki mimi ndafanya tu, ujumbe wetu itafika kwa mashabiki, watatusikia wimbo wetu wataitisha kwenye speaker, si tutabisha, na najua mwisho wa siku pale tutafika.
Kama si mziki ningekuwa dead 8 feet under, lay to rest. What a fate. Shukran, it's a grace. Kama si mziki ningekuwa dead 8 feet under, lay to rest. What a fate. Shukran, it's a grace. Ndani tumesoma vijana, kijana, I had big dream, chasing the gold, silver and them rings. Round the mwenda, I'm running mad, boom, pushing it to the limit. Lost of false promises. I had education is the key. Show me the padlock, what I see. Mlango bila shafi, tough it is. Now I see clear. It's a wave coming like never before. Vijana wanakangwa ka fly daily.
Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. Next up is an interesting interview with a very talented, can I call him a young man? Yeah. He'll tell us. Viatu Rangi is in studio. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, brother.
First and foremost,
yes.
It's been a minute since we last talked. It's
True.
been about 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
3 years?
Yeah, roughly 3 years.
Let's talk about during that time frame. Obviously, a lot of things have happened. Kumekuwa na COVID?
COVID ikakam.
Na wasanii by the way wameteta hiyo time.
Tumona shida.
Let's talk about that. How did you survive that?
Msanii apati show. Msanii aendi interview. Msanii kukaa home. Kauna biashara wazee asari kukaa home. So niliona imebidi turudi kwa TikTok. Turudi kwa YouTube sana.
Back to basics.
Manze inabidi. Ndio sasa huwezi ipata hiyo physical contact na watu wengine. Inabidi mpatane tu kwa social media.
Lakini hata nikuulize, niliona wasanii wengi walikuwa wanajaribu kufanya ma streaming. Wale jaribu ku double na hiyo.
Manze mimi zote nilijaribu. Ndio sasa pia mimi ni msanii. Lazima watu wajue kazi inaendelea. Mungu amenijalia wai, kwa hiyo COVID at least hatujapatikana hiyo pande nyingine mbaya. So YouTube tulikuwa tunaenda live, Facebook na my team tunaenda live. So at least kuweka wase wajue kazi bado inaendelea.
Safi, lakini kabla tuendelee, just a quick recap, kuna wale watu wanakuona for the first time. Na wanasikia jina Viatu Rangi.
Viatu Rangi.
Tueleze, Viatu Rangi ilitokea wapi?
Viatu Rangi ni kupiga viatu rangi, yani ukiangalia hivyo kwa venye iko. But in real life kuna wale wasetua kwa negative. Wakiona umeanza shughuli yako, wewe ni msanii unaanza kuimba, wanaona huyu msanii hazienda mbali. Ni nini anafanya, si afanye shughuli nyingine, like wako negative. Hawa say wewe ufai kuwasikiza, unafaa kuwapuzilia mbali juu unajua nini unataka. So hiyo kuwapuzilia mbali ni kuwapiga rangi.
Acha nikuulize, last time sikukuuliza, kuna mtu mwenye directly unaona alikuambia hivyo ama alikuwa anakuchukulia hivyo?
Directly, ni experience, like hata ni majirani tuseme. Unaona ukiwa pale like hiyo ghetto live nini, mmekana watu pale kwa nyumba ukiimba, mtu next anasikia. So wewe pia unaweza kusikia wakiongea, sasa wanatupiga kelele ni nini wanafanya, kuna penye wataenda. Tumeona wengi kama hao, like tukaamua kuwapiga rangi. Naam.
Na ni kweli kazi unafanya.
Kweli,
kuna hii collaboration yenye umekuja umefanya juzi.
Naam.
Tunataka tuongea about that.
Yes.
But before that, kuna hii mood na atmosphere yenye inaendelea saizi within the country. Nataka tuongelee hiyo with regard to usanii.
True.
Ni election year.
Ni kweli.
Na me, this is how I feel. Naona ni kama wasanii wanafaa kuwa involved na kurali mayouth na kuongelesha, especially na vitu za peace. Wewe unaona aje hiyo story?
Hiyo story kwa poa. Like hata naweza shukuru sana. Tumeingia moja na Paddy Ubon inajiita Peace Print. Like tunaanza kueneza hii mambo ya peace. Tunapatana na mtu kwa soul yake. At least tunamwambia hii soul yako ndio kitu imekusustain for all those 5 years. Election inakam itapita. Wewe tuendelee na hii kazi yako. Huyu mtu akawapa kanda yako ndio jirani yako. Usimpige ati mwanasiasa alikuja convince na 200. So hiyo ndio shughuli tumeanza, tuko ndani.
Na Paddy mlitoana wapi na Paddy?
Paddy
vile sisi tunajua Paddy. Paddy ngoma kani ya food ako hapo ndani.
True.
Ulimconvince aje? Akakuja kwa ngoma ya peace sasa.
Ndio kweli. So hata si mambo tulianza back then. Kuna hata collab tumefanya naye, bado venye umesema ni ya food. Like pia mimi wazee kama kuna chakula
lazima ujibonde.
Lazima kukula. So venye nilileta idea, tuko na ngoma inajiita Njugu. Tulikamna hiyo idea na yeye tukaifanya.
Chapa kama uendelee chapa Njugu kidogo. Sawa. Siku hizi kuko na njugu aina mingi. Kuna njugu karanga, njugu siaga, njugu chemsha, njugu kwa ngatamu. Mi kama kuna njugu nani musi niite. Otumia njugu kwa njia mbali. Kuna watu wajaba, alele, matawi, wengine kuweka kwa mkate, wengine tumia kama mboga, wengine tumia kwa njia mbali nao. Njugu kama mboga.
Njugu kama mboga.
That's another conversation we'll have. Okay, now you came together.
So tukafanya njugu and Paddy ni mtu mpoa, like alisikiza idea yangu. By then sikuwa na numbers hata mimi. So akasikiza kona hiki tiko poa, let's do it. From njugu asame receive poa and tukakamna project mingi baada ya njugu. Tukakuwa like brothers. So nikakuja kujua the other side yake. And then hii peace duration najua wanasiasa wengi wanakam through by the wanaangalia followers wako Facebook, wanaangalia mambo yako YouTube. So wanaona mse tukimweka on board pia anaweza tusaidia kureach watu fulani. But sasa si tukakampia na idea kama hautaleta amani, we won't join your team. Ndio hiyo footprint ikatokea. Hiyo ya peace print tukaanza kufanya, like ni process hii tumeanza. Election ikienda, hii ni ya campaign ikiendelea ikikuja kushika na si pia tu yake iendelee kushika.
Now ni nini unazaambia the youth wala wanakuangalia saa hizi in terms of involvement na campaigns, kwa sababu involvement si kupiga kura peke yake au vipi?
Ni kweli.
So ni nini unaza advise the youth saa hizi wala wanakuangalia?
Mimi kitu kwanza ndaambia youth ni kwa mjanja usitumike. Usikubali kutumika juu ya hakuna YouTube wa like 5k kuendelea. Kuna mwanasiasa utapata youth kwa mtaa labda hajapata kazi fulani ya kufanya, anakuja naambiwa 200 waenda kuchafua place fulani. Hapana, hiyo youth usikubali kutumika. Siasa itakuja na itaenda. Mtu akikuja na sera nzuri ya kukupatia kazi sawa, kama unaona ni mtu mzuri, but akikuja negatively don't accept the proposal.
Safi. True. Nice message. Now in terms of copyright, kulikuwa na conversation in the morning. Tulikuwa tuna have with my colleague Doreen Arange, na tulikuwa tunasema ni kama wasanii maneno ya copyright. Kuna mtu alikujenjera hiyo story?
Ni kweli. So copyright by the in Kenya copyright imekuwa issue. Ukuendani usikue like ni kama uko tu same. Juu unaenda unaandikisha ngoma zako kabisa, unaenda unalipa off ya kuregister nini. At the end of the day royalties zinakuja, manze aziridhishi. Hata ile budget ulitumia kufanya ngoma yako unakuja na ni negative kabisa.
Kulikuwa na msanii nilisikia akisema kama wasanii calligraph anapata 1,000.
Imagine.
utapata nini?
Mimi hebu sasa piga.
Hata nikuulize ulipata.
Chini ya maji. Chini ya maji. Lakini hairidhishi. Ni pesa hata uwezi buy credo.
Wewe unaona what's the problem? Kama msanii, unaona vile unaweza analyze kutoka uanze. Jumeko kwa game for a minute.
Usanii manzi iko na brokers. The problem are brokers.
Ngoja fafanua brokers.
Brokers ni wewe ni msanii sawa, una wakado, unafanya audio yako, unaenda na shoot video poa, alafu unawapelekea wao. Juu sasa wao ndio watafuatilia inachezwa wapi, ni station gani, like royalties inakamaje. Ndio unaweza kuwa umegain royalties ile kubwa, but ile pesa inaenda kwa mfuko ya wale watu hapo. Juu wewe ujui ni wapi, hukufuatilia. Wale tuango mako kwa trust ukawapatia. So ile pesa kukam ni wao wanajua ni ngapi wanafaa kutumia msanii.
In America, kuna kitu walikuwa wanaita, sijui kama bado iko. Walikuwa wanaita payola. Payola ilikuwa inamaanisha ma record executives wa label fulani wanaenda analipa DJs, wanalipa radio stations cheza the songs. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Have you ever seen something like that happen?
Mimi nimeona. Like that's why hata kwa nini kwa msanii lazima kuwe na marketing team. Marketing team ni wenye wana make sure kila kitu yako imeenda poa. We kazi yako enda studio, fanya kitu safi yenye watu wata accept. From there waachie wao wapeleke ngoma zako. Kama ni kuuza nini, kitambo kulikuwa na kuuza CDs. Pirates wakakam. Msanii akaumia. Saizi ni kudownload. Wana download ngoma yako.
Unaona kama imekuwa wasi sama.
Imekuwa wasi juu bila kwambia. Yani kuna mse aliona siku na kudownload, akaenda akafungua kampuni yake. Sasa akidownload hii pesa itaenda ule jamaa direct. Lazima itafikia wase wengine kwanza. Ndio nakwambia usanii Kenya yetu inafaa kama na policies.
Calligraph alisema kukuwa msanii ni kujitolea.
Manze ni gharama.
Ni gharama. Kwa kati hizo challenges copyright aside, unaona ni nini ingine inaweza fanyika ndio at least msanii wa Kenya, kwa sababu kumekuwa na conversation watu wengi wanasema wasanii wa Kenya compared to hata neighbors wetu Tanzania, Uganda, hata tusiende huko sijui Nigeria sijui nini, ati kuna vile we're not supporting our own. Do you feel like?
I feel like true, there is no that much support and give Kenyan artist platforms. Kama kuna platform, kama kuna mfano
hapo, I have to disagree with you because I feel like the platforms are there. For instance, KBC.
Okay. KBC iko. By the way, I really appreciate KBC, imenishikilia sana. And kitu naweza sema ni organizers, mtu ameorganize show, akili yake itapiga Nigeria kwanza. Unaona? Na itapiga Nigeria, ngoma za Nigeria, most DJs plays Nigeria song. Unaona? Wanakuja kwa nini ya Kenya, like ngoma mpya kitokea imetrend pale TikTok, pia nataka trend na ngoma Nigeria. Anasema kuna msanii fulani wa Kenya, kuna Calligraph, kuna Viatu Rangi, kuna Kinkaka nani, acha nimpatie support. Unaona, DJ akicheza ngoma yangu, watu wengi wataijua na wataipromote kwa TikTok. Unaona? But wewe ukikimbilia zile ngoma za nje, unakuja kusahau kuna watu, ama msanii wa Kenya anapewa kama ni mix ngoma yake na kwa mwisho ile time mtu ameboeka kusikiza hiyo ngoma ndio yake inarushwa huko. Unaona? So kitu naweza sema ni mind wasanii wa Kenya pia.
Naona ni kama ni more the fans ndio, naona ni kama unasema the fans ndio ni kama push the music.
Ni ukweli. Ndio mafans pia mashabiki sana
Wakenya wa consume Kenyan music.
Manze inakuwa tricky sana. So sijui kama ni taste hata tuipe kama Nigeria.
Hiyo ndio interesting kwa sababu unakumbuka there was a time ni kama kila ngoma ya Kenya ilikuwa na sound Nigeria.
So mimi kitu naweza kuambia ni there is difference between Nigeria and Kenya. This is Kenya. Let's do our thing. Wacha tukavana na logo yetu fulani yenye wasa najua hii ni ya Kenya. Unaona?
Speaking of which, unaona Gengeton ndio the beacon. Unaona ni kama the Gengeton ndio itatupeleka hapo.
Gengeton ingetupeleka pale. Ingetupeleka pale. Lakini kuna pia wase wengine walikuja karibu. Unaona?
Akina nani hao?
Mimi hata naweza blame pia wasanii. Msanii wenu wa genge unakuja kuimba kitu chafu, itacheza kwa TV gani?
Naoma.
wacha content ikuwe pia kitu clean, yani inaweza sikizwa na mtoto na mzazi wakiwa kwa nyumba. Sawa ni genge, but let's the words zikuenye kitu mtu anaweza
kitu universal.
Yeah. Then tuta promote genge junior yetu.
Your conversation is controversial. Tukianza kuongea about content, inakuwa a different topic altogether because umeona kwa mtandao what's been happening, especially not really this year or the past previous 3 years. Kumekuwa na conversation, Eric Mondi akajoin the conversation. A doctor Ezekiel akajoin the conversation. So umesikia Kenya walikuwa wanasema creativity ni kama watu walipeleka creativity chini, akapeleka hizo lyrics juu.
Lyrics ndio zikakuja.
So hapo ndio unaona kukakuwa na disconnection na Gengeton.
Ni ukweli. Hapo ndio Gengeton pia ilikuja kaanza kuisha. Ikakuwa mostly ni youths wanasikiza Gengeton. Unaona? So youths ngoma zikitokea za Kenya zikuwe ni Gengeton na ziongei ile message poa, unapata hata mtu mkubwa anakosa kitu ya kusikiza. Ndio unapata anakimbia ngoma za Nigeria, unaona? So wasanii tunafaa kufanya ile kitu wa Kenya wote wanasikiza, hakuna age limit ati ndio anafaa kusikiza na uyafai.
Nice. So now there's the new track. Let's talk about it.
Kama si muziki. Okay, kama si muziki na relate na wase wengi, but on my side mimi nasema kitu imefanya hata sahi, kitu imefanya niko hapa ni muziki. Kama sio muziki sahi ningekuwa wapi? Kuna wasanii wana story mob zenye wanaweza kutuambia zenye walipitia ikabidi wafike kwa muziki. Mimi kuna group zile nilikuwa, but sahi hata hauwezi waona. Jumanze njia walipitia imekuwa mbaya. Mtu unapata alipita mtaani akaona mada fulani na simu ngeta, wasa wakatokea mob nini unaona? So mimi juu ya time yangu most ilikuwa kwa music, imefanya nisijipate yo the other side, unaona? So like wasanii wana story ya kusema kama si muziki yo yenye wanafanya vitu zenye wangekuwa wamepitia.
Just a quick perspective. Mtani baba dogo. So zile vitu zenye unasema umeona ni close friends?
Wale wase close sana. Mimi kwanza nashukuru mamangu juu nikiwa nasoma like alinitoa from Nairobi akanipeleka mashambani kabisa. Juu ile group mimi nilikuwa nayo.
Is it when uli notice ukamwambia ama ni kitu yeye mwenyewe ali notice?
Ali notice. Mimi singe notice juu mimi na feel niko comfortable na wase. Wanajua mimi shida fulani kitokea nikuja niitoe viatu rangi kuja utatue nini, una feel uko juu, unaona? Penye unapata comfort wewe una feeling tu kwa sawa. But juu unapitia njia mbaya. So kunitoa pale ikani change mind kabisa, nikapata new group wenye wanapita the other way, unaona? So kurudi ile group nilikuwa nayo mimi mwenyewe sasa nikiwaangalia naogopa, unaona? Uwezi wa join, inabidi sasa hii muziki tu ndio mimi nitumie at least kuwasaidia wao.
Butonge, that's very interesting when you put it in that perspective, kwa sababu ukiangalia unaweza kuna grow kwa mtaa fulani. Iwe ni baba dogo ama wherever else. Kuna vitu fulani mbaya zinafanyika. Wewe unaji include kwa hizo vitu, but you don't notice. Ni nini unazaambia watu kaa wale wanatuangalia saa hizi?
Mimi kwanza kitu nazaambia wase, mostly muongea na youths group, manze group kama si kitu si ile inawa build, avoid it. Group yuko na pia pressure sana. Ndio unapata kidogo naambiwa hebu anja hii, unapata umeingia kwa miadarati na kitu kama hata tuseme kuvuta bangi. Ukivuta bangi kuna inakupatia nini fulani tu, inakupatia perspective fulani ya kufikiria, unaonanga wendo uko on top, unaona? Wendo uko on top nini unaanza kuinterfere na wase bila kujua unawaumiza. Na wale watu wakichoka wana come back, unaona? Wakikam back hivyo ndo unapoteza life. So my youth group kama si ile kukusaidia, avoid it.
Kama si muziki
ingekuwa dead.
Ngikuwa wapi? That's a powerful title. Thank you so much. What's next as we wind up? What's next for Viatu Rangi?
Okay, for now nimeamua ku give back to the community. Like kuna studio inajiita J Studios, waliangalia kazi yangu wakaniita wakaniambia wako na wasanii upcoming kadhaa wanaweza penda pia tushirikiane tufanye kazi nao. So like wale wasanii nimerudi tufanye project kadhaa hata kama ni 3-4 hivi at least pia hao waweze kuona light ile penye mimi nimefika, unaona. So hiyo ndio imekuwa sasa ni program yangu, hakuna big collabs, ndafanya na ndashikilia wao wase.
Nice. Na watu pia bado wanaweza kupata kama kawaida wapi kwa Viatu Rangi on all social media platforms?
Kila mahali Viatu Rangi.
Safi. Yes, thank you so much for coming through to Good Morning Kenya.
Yeah.
We'll be back after this.
At the time, Shannon was in my office too.
What do you mean? You suspect that Shannon stole it?
I'm your daughter. You raised me. Don't you know what kind of person I am?
Pauline, tell me who gave this ring to you.
My uncle gave it to me. He said it belonged to my mum. You hurt me, Pinky.
To give this villa to Pinky.
Los que éramos ayer y los que seremos más.
Gonzalo, wouldn't it be better to end the whole thing once and for all?
No.
I don't know how he got to the hospital. So, you don't know how he found out?
No, I don't know. Nothing. One of the partners of my father was from there. That's him. Yes, that's him. Edgar Almonte Esquero. I'm very sure.
Julieta.
Yes.
Julieta.
Mr. Adrian, there's someone to see you.
See me? Who?
Yes. It's me.
To keep on having debts.
You still have a debt with me. You said that you owe me one, right?
Kwa ufupi hawa ni watu wangu mimi.
Mzee, you can call it kahindi, kahi.
Ni watu wazima mkikosana, mwataka sisi tuige mfano wa nani?
Dadangu, huoni aibu? Aibu ungeiona wewe Kate lokuzunguka right, left and center.
Nilidhani haya mambo ya lea tushawachana nayo. Kwa hivyo sijakukasirisha. Unanisinya. Uwe.
Does this mean you are now seeing eye to eye?
Tito, what kind of question is that? Si wanaonana macho kwa macho.
Class, I want to say that Mr. Fridge and I, we have decided to put our differences aside.
You want to be what?
Campaign manager.
You messed me in my dream. You want to mess me again? Stupid.
Kenyanchu niko fresh, very fresh. Wacha nikwambie Kenyanchu. Unajua umoja ni nguvu, utengana ni utaifa.
Mimi acha niendelea kutengana. Wewe hebu jipe shughuli, niko very busy. I am very busy. Wewe wasiana kunisumbua ate business partner makwapa yangu.
So guys, let me tell you.
Classmate.
Rangada nipe kingi Rangada nipe ringi Rangada nipe kingi Rangada ni ikera nipe shaku de shaku anguka nao na style ya kibantu chai zime nice zime kwa chu ongeza chumvi kakanka kakanku kwa hii dance mini tycoon kula level tu akunyo na sanku kosa aye kosa aye nipe ringi Rangada nipe kingi Rangada nipe ringi Rangada nipe kingi Rangada niko zone cheki zime nice leave me alone ni dancing nishiko na roho nitalamba give present to God niko zone cheki zime nice leave me alone ni dancing nishiko na roho nitalamba give present to God no stress to jibamba oh no pigia moja na role ya mkate oh no shetani nisikone kwa ipote naweza kasirika nikukate filo na niudhi nikuteme mate chibe nipe ringiti nipe kingi Rangada Rangada nipe kingi Rangada 7 Pepe Rush Pepe Pepe Rush Pepe what how low can you go how low how low how low how low can you go how low how low nipe ringi if you know Rangada press number moja uno nipe kingi if you know Rangada press number moja uno nipe ringi if you know Rangada press number moja uno nipe kingi if you know Rangada press number moja uno niko zone cheki zime nice leave me alone ni dancing nishiko na roho nitalamba you present to God niko zone cheki zime nice leave me alone let me dance nishiko na roho nitalamba give praises to God
Producer anasema ume give up na kuchangamka na wimbo ni yako.
Sija give up. Nini anasema nitoe utesi nini? Unajua hii ni utesi.
Hii ni part of ata ya usanii.
Utesi nini?
Lakini unajua lazima tuone huu ni msanii mgani.
Of course yeah.
Tuone usura, tukuone. Unajua pale kidogo mshajifunika hata tujui. That is your latest song by the way.
Yes. That's my
Kevochi.
Yes.
That's your name again.
Yes.
Na hiyo ni jina ya usanii.
Of course. Kwanza ni jina yangu official actually.
Kevochi is your official name?
That's
your ID name? You actually, I think you are the few artists I've seen who use their ID names in their artistry.
Mimi nimetumia ujanja. So shosho yangu alikuwa anapenda sana kuniita Ochieng. Na madango aliniita Kelvin. So what I did nichukua tu ile Kevo na Ochieng nikashikanisha. Ni jina yangu ya ID.
Nimeshikanisha tu jina ya kwanza na ya pili.
Ni jina yangu.
But it's part of art. It's important to use artistry. Kama vile sasa vile umejivaa, mavitu chain kwa shingo, ni mtu producer amesema tuweze vitu tukuone but otherwise
ustarabu lazima.
It comes with that. Talk to us about that your last song which we just had before we came for this conversation.
Ringidi. Of course unajua mimi nimekuwa dancer for quite some time.
Yeah, tangu 2013?
Tangu 2013 nimekuwa dancer, kadansia msanii mkubwa Willy Paul for almost karibu 4 years hivi. Then nilikuwa nimeshaanza but nikimdansia towards hapo 2015 nilikuwa nishaanza kutoa muziki. But sasa watu walikuwa wananiambia Kevochi unajua wewe ni dancer hujaitoa dance song. So kuna songs zangu zingine unajua mimi ni msee ambao naimba gospel na some of the songs nilikuwa naimba according to the people that I meet out there and my fans walikuwa na feel Kevochi ngoma zako ni kali but mbona hujaitupatia dance song na vile ni mnoma ku dance. So nikamwambia I'll do something, I'll surprise them. So Ringidi come about na basically nimekuwa kwa hii journey as a dancer na nimerealize dance ijakuwa appreciated sana. So what I did nilisema I'll just kuna dance naweza sema dance fraternity huko nje wana create awesome dance styles. So what I did, I took all the dance style from Kenya and also outside Kenya, nikaanza kuzi collaborate, then nikazihimba zote. Now zika form this song Ringidi. Yeah.
So you being a dancer before, Jumesema you've danced for Willy Paul from 2013. Ayo time tu actually alikuwa na hit up until around 2016 before you ventured to kuwa your own artist, your own person.
Yes.
You being a dancer as at that time, and you know, dance being your thing, is that part of what informed style yako ya muziki? Because actually your songs, they have that dance vibe, like a dance hall kind of style of music.
Unajua muziki ni kitu ambayo ukitoa unatoa kulingana na ile vibe yenye umepata na feel yenye uko nayo at that particular time. Because pia kuna songs zenye nimeimba ni slow na zingine ni worship, so ina depend kwa hiyo season mimi kama artist napitia nini, naelewa. Na mimi na realize kwa season zangu mostly na kwaga nikiwa kwa season fulani ndio God ananipatia song, nikiwa kwa happy moment, nikiwa sad, you know, all this time ndio huwa napata mziki na ndio natoa. So maybe just to say, inaweza kwa pia ni vibe tu na inform Kenya nitatoa next.
I feel kama you're confuse fans wako. Unajua kuna hiyo aspect ya and utapata pia good people would say it's important kukuwa na maybe a certain style. Kama ni Afropop, we just know Kevochi for Afropop. Kama ni dancehall, ni dancehall. Kani worship, ni worship. Kani reggae, ni reggae. Beat either you are doing secular or gospel. But unajua unafanya like a cocktail depending on also the kind of message God gives you. Sindio? Don't you feel kama in a confused sort of fans wako try and understand what kind of artist you are?
Anafikiria mafans wangu wananielewa kwa sababu unajua msanii wewe anajichukulia kama supermarket. Ukiingia kwa channel yangu unaona, ukiingia kwa channel yangu you take what you like, una get. Na utapata most, kama wewe ni mtu ambao unapenda dance song, una get, utapata nimekupatia. Kama wewe ni mtu ambao unapenda muziki tu ungetulia kwa gari ukidrive usikie, bado utapata pale, unaelewa. So sidhani kama msanii anafaa kuwa anajilimit to one sound. Of course kuna that one sound yenye maybe iko consistency in terms of what you do. So for me kuna hiyo Afropop vibe, kuna hizo danceable songs nini, but also msanii hufai kujilimit, unaelewa, kwa sababu wasanii ni wengi, alafu labda assume msanii aniite tufanye collab. Siwezi enda tu as much as mimi ni msanii wa Afropop, siwezi jilimit kufanya hiyo kwa sababu labda yeye anaimba inspiration song na beat iko slow nini. So me I'll just listen to the track and try to feel nitaweka nini hapa yenye pia mafans wake wakisikia wata appreciate. So msanii hafai kujilimit kwa any sound, na naamini msanii anaweza fanya kwa any sound yoyote.
Any sound.
Bora muziki iwe nzuri, watu wapende.
That is what matters at the end of the day.
Bora tu mafans wameridhika.
Okay.
Na I don't think hata kwa comments zangu za video nishaipata hata msee mmoja akasema hey Kevochi unatuchanganya. In fact ukiangalia comments za wase wangu wase wanasema they love my music. Yani wengine hadi wananiombea bana.
Endelea hivyo hivyo. Okay, makes a lot of sense. Na ukiangalia the way the music industry is going and even the trends in music saizi, do you feel hiyo ni kitu moja like most artists can adapt variety? Because again also kuna variety of audience.
Naweza sema unaona saka mimi msanii wa injili, mimi I will not just come out and it is just because I have access to studio niende nieke muziki ama ni record. So for me I don't follow trends sana.
Okay.
Yes, niko updated about what is happening around me, naona pale TikTok. Mimi ni mtu wa social media sana, naona hizi vitu zote. But mimi kama msanii wa gospel huwa sifuati trend. I have like to pray and to hear what God wants to tell his people. Umeelewa, kwa sababu mimi ni Christ ambassador, unaona. So I have like to take time and hear what God wants to tell these people, then ndio nikuje nitoe. Yeah.
So we can say that largely your music is inspired by the Holy Spirit.
Na maybe just for my people to understand, Kevochi ni mtu ambaye amepitia mambo mob, unaona. Nimetoka kwa familia yenye mamangu ni deaf, babangu alikuwa deaf. So growing in that environment, alafu ilikuwa Dandora, nimepitia a lot of challenges. Na kuna challenges zingine as a person ukipitia, naweza sema when God takes you out of that, kuna vile unakuja kurealize, by the way, it is not me. Umeelewa? Unaanza ku appreciate the fact that God yuko, na unaanza kumsika mono, unaanza kusikia anasema nini about your life and also your talent. Na get? So kwa hiyo season yote vile God alinitoa kwa hizo suffering kwa napitia, sikuwa na siwezi sema sikuwa na any other option, but I think itakuwa fair sana nikimtumikia Mungu kwa sababu place amenitoa. Yeah.
Hebu tukae hapo kidogo Kevochi, also just to put context to the kind of music you create.
Yeah.
Saying that mom is deaf, dad is deaf. Now that is the kind of was deaf, sorry. Yeah. And that's the kind of environment you found yourself in and growing up. Ukiangalia saizi penye umefika, even with your art, how would you say that shaped the kind of person you are, even just as an artist?
Unajua ukiwa kwanza nakumbuka nilikuwa shags kwa kina mamangu Kisii, nikapitia a lot of suffering kupitia kwa mkono ya aunti zangu na nini, alafu Mungu akanisaidia nikaweza kuja Nairobi, alafu napatana na mamangu. That's the first time na realize actually mamangu ni bubu, then babangu, unaona. Then naenda shule hapa, najitahidi, najituma hapa na hapa, nikijaribu pia mambo na talent, yana jaribu kufitin Nairobi, maisha ya tao, umeelewa. But sikai sana na babangu anapass. So ile furaha umepatana na mzazi tena anapass, unaelewa. Then I'm forced to kukaa tena na my step mom. Inakuwa challenging kidogo hapa na pale, especially it was challenging for her kwa sababu alipoteza husband, unaelewa. So pia kulikuwa na hiyo back and forth, mvuto. Out of that I went to live with my friends, maget. Na I also made naweza sema choices that I'm not proud of, and that's kwa hiyo season 2 pia nikapata son, unaelewa. So naweza sema all these things unajua ukipitia vitu mob sana huwa una try to understand God, kwa nini napitia hizi vitu. Yeah. Then pole the more you draw close to God, anaanza kukuteach, anaanza kukuonyesha ni aje hii na hivi ingefanyika hivi, na this is how you should depend on me. So out of that it really changed my perspective in terms of even kenye nafanya saa hii in terms of my ministry, na ili kinda steer kenye nafanya nao kwa mziki kwenda mbele ya.
Wow. So when did this turnaround happen? At what point so ukasema, by the way, with all the issues I've gone through na challenges, difficult past life, made some not so good choices, which ultimately ili have a great impact to your life. Basa ilifika point gani ukasema, now after it's all said and done, it's God, and I'll even serve him. I'll do music that serves him, that praise him.
Naweza sema unajua ukipitia hizo challenges, nikikwambia before hata nikuja nipate mtoto na nini, naweza sema kuna time nilikuwa na reflect back na nakumbuka nikiwa natoka shule, nilikuwa almost kuwa recruited kwa mambo na uwizi tu, naelewa. Na nakumbuka there's this one time nilikuwa shule, but mabeste zangu wenye najua huko mtaani walikuwa wanataka kukam kuiba kwa ploti fulani. So I was supposed to be part of that, but nilikuwa shule. So hawa kuningoja, waliona huyu jamaa toki shule nini, wakaamua. So kumbe that day yenye wame decide like ndio sasa wanataka kwenda kufanya, wanaitanga boom rush kwa hiyo plot, wanataka kwenda kuiba. That time kumbe alikuwa anafuatwa nyuma na polisi, and they were killed outside kwa mlango yetu tu hapo kwa hiyo plot yetu, kwa sababu walikuwa actually ni watu najua, marafiki zangu kabisa, unaona. Mimi natoka shule napata damu everywhere, nasikia story. So imagine nilikuwa naangalia hii situation, nasema I was supposed to be part of this group, unaelewa, but somehow God tu aliniseparate, unaelewa. Of course hiyo time utajua, but baadaye ukikama reflect na realize, by the way, kama si God alinizuia shule, kwa sababu pia nilikuwa shule, unajaribu kutoka, ndio hiyo ndio siku sasa mwalimu ameamua ni aje, Omolo tulia hapa, unaget, where are you going, unaget. So unakuja home unapata ikisanga ime happen, and you realize inakuhit, by the way nilifaa kukua na wase, unaget. So that pili nionyesha how God alikuwa anani protect through hizi series. Umeji-engage ndio kwa bad group, but God anakuseparate, Umeelewa? So hiyo tu peke yake yani inakuonyesha vile God alikuwa ameniseparate, cause mimi pia ningededi.
Yeah.
But God alikuwa ananiseparate akijua ni aje huyu atakuja kunitumikia one day, atakuwa kingdom contributor. Yeah.
Wow. So ukiangalia such kind of instances, events, unasema tu it just has to be Jesus at the end of the day.
Of course, na sometimes pia sasa inaweza sema pia kitambo, naona nikianza naweza sema zile vitu umepitia zinaweza kufanya ukaokoka na ukafanya nini, but right now siwezi zungumzia the same case, kwa sahi nimegrow ndani ya God, nimesi how ameni bless, nimeona place amenitoa na mahali amenifikisha. So sahi haiko motivated only hata kwa ile visango umepitia za person.
Yeah.
Ni the more unakaa na Mungu unaanza kurealize how big he is, and unaanza kuunderstand vile anakupenda, unaanza kurealize whether I should serve God. Yeah.
And just aside from music, pia unafanya different other things. You are into fashion, you have a cloth line, you also do dance training. Tell me about those things.
As I told you, mziki nilikuja nikatoa my song Take Over, ikavuma, wasaka nijua nayo.
That is your hit song?
Yeah, wasaka nijua nayo, ilifanya vizuri, ikatop charts kwa media stations mingi sana. Nikaget kufanya shows, nikaget kutembea Kenya, nikaget kufanya school missions, unaona, with my church, home church, Nairobi Chapel hapa Ngong Road. And all this nimekuwa nikifanya huduma. Of course sikuacha ile nini ya dance, na umeacha kudansia msanii, sikuacha kudance. Nilisema nao, wase waliniambia nao, Kevochi is time utoke kwa shadow ya mtu nyuma, sasa ukuje pia wewe utuonyeshe.
Come and do your own thing.
Come and do your own thing. Na niliwasikiza nikasema saa I'll start pushing my dance, na nikaanzisha kampani yangu inaitwa Wastarabu Dance Agency. Nilianza na dance kwanza. So nikaanza na wao, tukaanza kufanya training, tukaanza kutafuta shows hapa na pale. Pia God akatusaidia, tukaget kudu shows kubwa kama TSO, tukafanya show kadhaa na
That was a very big show by the way.
Tukafanya show kadhaa. Then wasakaanza kutujua kama Wastarabu, but unajua Wastarabu ni vision kubwa sana, si dance peke yake. Kuna cloth line, kuna in future Mungu akimajaliwa, Mungu akisaidia, nitafanya mambo na real estate na hizi vitu zote. Mimi ni dreamer by the way, and when I dream about something I go for it, unaelewa? So I started the dance team, wananidansianga tukienda show. Then also as a way of them earning, tukaanzisha kitu ya dance fitness, but yetu ni strictly gospel, kwa sababu tumerealize pia wasa God wanaweza penda ku work out but they don't know, kwa sababu akienda kwa gym sometimes ako limited na mziki inachezwa. So mi niliona nianzishe dance fitness ya gospel. I've been going to churches na wauliza kama wanaweza tupatia chance tufanye dance fitness for 1 hour, na wanalipa tu pesa kidogo tuje ya kutusaidia pia sisi instructors, na pia sisi tuna make sure that wako fit, wako healthy na wana workout. Umeelewa? So I started that. Then after that ikaanza kudupoa, so tuko na classes kiasi, but we are still trusting God for more. Then nikaanzisha cloth line. Na cloth line of course wanasemanga mimi ni mstarabu, mimi napenda mambo na fashion, napenda kuvaa, napenda kukaa poa, na nikasema what a nice way basi kupush a brand Wastarabu na niweze kuiweka huko nje. Na God amenisaidia, nimeuza t-shirt, nimeuza hoodies, nimeuza vitu kadhaa, na we are still selling. Hopefully soon tafanya launch ya nguo, but because nimekuwa nikiuza online sana, but hopefully soon ta launch ya.
I mean, just listening to your journey story, wona kama you've not had so many challenges in music particularly hata ukianza, because just from your story from being a dancer, msanii mkubwa, when you launched your own solo bit of being an artist, ukapata even media tours, you got a chance to even perform at TSO. So what was the difficult part about you doing music since 2016 up until now?
Anaweza sema unaona, sasa silikwambia nilikuwa na dansia Willy Paul.
Yes.
So ukidansia msanii kama huyo, of course unatembea na yeye, si ndio? Unaenda media tours, unaelewa? So unajua mimi ni mtu wa kujituma. Hata nikiwa na msanii wangu kwa TV nakuja nakwambia ni aje Doreen nisaidie na namba yako, maybe siku moja nitakuja hapa na muziki yangu, unaona? So nilikuwa natumia hiyo chance yenye niko naye, tukitembea na try ku network na say na get numbers hapa na pale. But also siwezi sema sijapitia challenges. Of course challenges zenye wasanii upitia mostly na kwa gani either kurecord, naelewa?
Hakuna
kushoot video, na get. Of course kama KBC ni TV kubwa sana, unaelewa? Na lazima ufanye product nzuri ambao ukiwaletea hata kama wakujua watacheza. Kwa sababu sometimes pia naelewa kuna media houses wakuna hizo standards za nini wataput out there for the people. So hiyo kungangana tu kutry ku raise funds, kutry ku get support from the church and even people around you to be able to do the audio and the video. So hizo ndio challenges nimepitia, and I know kama msanii hiyo ni kawaida ya jani, unaelewa? Haifai kwa kama kuna msanii pale nje, hafai kwa ana wasiwasi kwa akipitia challenges kama hizo, unaelewa? Kwa sababu it takes for hapa Kenya ndio upate audio nzuri ni kitu kama 20k kuendelea. Naona video nzuri labda 30k kuendelea. Na kama unaanza wanasemanga usijaribu kufanya kitu kubwa ambao uwezi. Elewa, jaribu tu kumanage. Hata kama utaanzia mahali, anzia hapo, lakini at least hata watu watakuwa nasema this is your journey. Watu watasema alianzia hapa, sasa amefika hapa, hata na shoot video za 100k and above. Umeelewa? But hizo ni challenges nilipitia. Na though as an artist ni poa pia kujipanga. So unaona sasa mimi nafanya kama cloth line. Nikiuza manguo nini na hizi kofia tapata nitaweza kusave na nitafanya video nzuri. Kando na hivyo kitu watu wajui ama Wakenya wajui, vile unaniona hapa vile nimevaa hivi, vile nakaa hivi, mimi ni mtu simple sana. Pale mtaani huwa napika mandazi kwa barabara. Nauzia kina maadhi hapo mandazi kwa barabara, mafans ya maniba wangu, unaelewa? Niko tu hapo kwa barabara naamka every morning nauza mandazi. Na most of our mama anashangaa because sometimes they see my songs on TV. Wanauliza msanii nini, nawaambia unajua lazima nijitume. Kwa sababu kuna reality ya yes, my music Mungu anasaidia inapenya, TV wanacheza, but kuna mahali nataka kukua kama Kevochi. Umeelewa? Na sitategemea muziki peke yake, lazima nijaribu kujituma upande mwingine huko kwa hustling, nijaribu kupika mandazi, nijaribu kuuza hii, nijaribu kufanya dance fitness.
Kujituma tu.
So basically challenges will always be there, but mtu kama msanii umejipangaje?
So do you think that is one of the things that unapata most artists wanna miss? Because for you, even with just what you're telling us, unauza mandazi, uko pale kwa kuuza nguo in your cloth line, most of them unapata they're living beyond their means. But listening to you, una live within your means. As in, kuonekana kwa TV does not limit you from doing easy kazi zenye watu watafeel sasa hizi ni kazi za aina gani. You still do them.
Hii ndio kitu mimi naweza sema. Unajua
live within your means.
Kama ni msanii, jaribu ufanye vitu kadhaa ndio support dream yako. Kama unapenda usanii, si ndio? Inshallah kesho utakuja labda utapata breakthrough, utajulikana na utaanza kulipwa kwa shows, utaanza kuitwa kila mahali, utafanya performance. But kama bado hujafika hapo, unaelewa, unafaa utafute kitu ambao utafanya yenye itasupport kenye hii talent yako, so that ndio ufike mahali unataka. Umeelewa? Ufai unajua wasanii wengi wana fake sana ile, hataki kuonekana akipika mandazi pale barabarani, hataki kuonekana, unajua hata sija mention ni vitu mingi nafanya. Mimi naeka hadi kuku, na imagine naeka hadi kuku, na hii yote ni kwa sababu napenda dream yangu na nataka kujisupport, ndo ifike mahali Kenya mzima wanakujua. Unaelewa? Lazima kuwe msanii ambao unajituma. Umeelewa? Usitegemee muziki juu pia kuna wasanii ambao wanatoa ni Mungu tu. Kuna msanii anatoa ngoma moja hivi maisha yake imebadilika. Umeelewa? Kuna msanii anatoa ngoma kama 20 na hakuna hata moja bado haijajulikana. So trust the process, but usitegemee kitu moja.
Trust the process. Finally, to wind down, Kevochi, what next for you as an artist? You've been here for 5 years. What should we expect?
Of course, naweza penda wasa expect more from Kevochi. More music, of course. Na pia projects za dance. Sasa pia nimeanza kuventure kwa events kiasi. Jaribu tu kutafuta hapa life na nini, so napanga pia events na Kenya naweza penda tu asa expect ni good music from me, of course, quality videos na pia watakuwa naniona sana na brand ya wastarabu tukizunguka hapa Kenya.
All right. Okay, good music it is, and a good place to end this conversation. I have been speaking to Kevochi Music, of course a gospel artist, talking to us about his journey and how it has been for the 5 years he has been in this industry. This is how we bring this conversation and ultimately Good Morning Kenya to a close this Thursday morning. We say thank you so much for watching on behalf of the entire team. We meet again next week. I'm Doreen Arangi Okello. Have a beautiful morning. Katika leo makala kutoka BBC. Yaliyomo bunge la Somali lachagua spika mpya katika zoezi lilosheheni cheche ikitoa nafasi kwa mchakato uchaguzi wa urais. Baadaye Jamhuri ya Afrika ya Kati idhinisha rasmi matumizi sarafu ya Bitcoin, alafu kisha tunatupia jicho hatua ya kupanda kwa bei ya mbolea duniani na athari yake kwa utoshelezi wa chakula Afrika. Moja kwa moja kutoka Nairobi, Kenya, twende kazi. Hujambo na karibu katika makala ya leo. Makala yanaangazia habari za biashara zinazokuhusu, uchambuzi wa kina na mahojiano. Ni Linus Moshigadi. Bunge la kitaifa Somali hatimaye limemteua spika mpya, mojawapo ya hatua hitajika ikitoa nafasi kwa kura za urais kufanyika. Sheikh Adan Mohamed Nur anayeunga mkono upinzani alipata kura 163 na kumshinda Hassan Abdi Nur alipata kura 89. Nur sasa ataungana na Abdi Hashi ambaye alichaguliwa kuwa spika wa bunge la Seneti siku ya Jumanne. Uchaguzi wa maspika ni hatua muhimu katika mchakato wa kufanikisha serikali mpya kabla ya makataa ya Mei 17 iwapo Somalia itaendelea kupokea msaada wa kifedha kutoka kwa shirika la kimataifa la IMF. Mpango wa sasa wa kifedha wa miaka mitatu ulio na thamani ya dola milioni 400 ni kati ya moja mpango ulioafikiwa kwa kupunguza deni la Somalia kwa 90%. Awali nimezungumza na Ibrahim Aidid, mwanahabari wa BBC Monitoring. Nilianza kwa kumuuliza kama hatua ya sasa inaashiria iwapo Somali ipo tayari kuandaa uchaguzi. Tumsikize.
Uchaguzi ambao ulifanyika hiyo jana wa bunge la kitaifa ni ishara tosha kwamba Somalia kwa sasa ipo tayari kuandaa uchaguzi wa urais, na hilo huenda likafanyika katika kipindi cha wiki 2 zijazo, na Somalia itakuwa na rais. Huenda itakuwa na rais katika kipindi hicho cha wiki 2.
Iwapo Somali haitaweza kufikia makataa ambayo alikuwa ametolewa na IMF, unahisi Somalia itajipata katika hali gani?